Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out, thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Todd Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Mel's 24, Unimento, M Iron 26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKeon, Retro Bill, More Books, Fiber Oats, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
What's up, John?
Morning.
Will you guys be capable of having a little chit chat if I go make coffee? I'm not actually done.
Of course, I have to ask John a question. John, why the heck? I don't know if you dropped out by accident or you dropped out deliberately or what happened, but it's not a good look when in the middle of discussing that, you disappeared.
Oh, no, it's my internet. I have no control over it.
Okay, I got you. Anybody with common sense would know you wouldn't run anyway, but when you listen back to the show, if any newbies on, like listening in YouTube, they'd be like, oh, that guy ran away, not knowing who you are.
Or you could run
I don't
away and
remember
then
where I
say
ran from.
internet issues.
I'm trying to get a little email together for Dean Odell. Sorry, good. Go ahead. Who was speaking?
It was really.
Yeah, that's a Craig excuse. You know, during the Caleb one, he says, "Oh, I'm having trouble hearing you."
That's funny. So yeah, I'm trying to get a little email together for Pastor Dean Odell there. So I'm trying to word it out properly. I don't know, and I think now, Witsit was there. Here's the one thing I'm contending to, Righteous. And I'm going to talk to you since you're walking with God. For all I can tell, that's what you say. I don't know you personally, but I'm sure you are. Why is he sitting down with Witsit when Witsit openly denies Christ? You know what I'm trying to say?
Witsit does that? I didn't know Witsit does that.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Well,
It's WWJD.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
He's had some harsh things to say about, and it all started, came on board, he started getting into that Hebrew roots and the Sabbath and all of that, and now he outright denies the Jesus that we follow. Put it that way.
Well, hold on. Hold on a second.
What would Jesus? I was just going to say, what would Jesus do if somebody denied he existed in front of him? I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, hold on a second. I think we can solve this really easy.
Hold on, Righteous. They denied, what are you talking about? They denied him when he was standing right there. He called them sons of Satan.
Well, I
The
think we
Jews
can solve
denied
this
them
very
right
easy,
there.
Neil. I think
What's
we can
that?
solve this very easy. Doesn't Nathan deny Jesus Christ too?
No.
And you're hanging around
No.
with Nathan?
You are hell.
No, we
What?
don't deny Jesus. When
Oh,
did
where'd
you
you get
hear
that from?
Nathan
Okay.
Oakley deny Christ?
You
Well,
think?
I don't know. So you're a Christian then, Nathan?
Yeah, I would say so. If you're going to categorize it as
Oh.
in those terms.
Oh, okay. So oh, go on. Say
Isn't
that
it-
again, Nathan. I didn't catch you.
I said, if you're going to categorize it in those terms, yes, I'm happy for you to call me a Christian.
Oh, okay. Well, then I wasn't sure. Okay. Because I listened to the show a lot, and I never really heard like a like strong confirmation, but like I always had like an inkling, like what's going on
It
here?
was in the
Because I know.
chat. Oh,
Oh,
you're
it's in
talking about
chat.
Nathan. I thought you were talking about Witsit.
Oh no, Nathan. Yeah.
Anyway,
'Cause I always-
you just use someone else as your comparison.
You mean how I used Neil and what I thought about you? Oh, is that
You
what
can
you're saying?
call someone else a heathen. Just say you're still hanging around with Brian, and he's what is he, ex-Catholic or something? I don't know. Maybe he'd turn around and go, I don't know, if you want to call me a Catholic, you can. You know, I don't know what he'd
Yeah.
say either. But whoever you're going to claim is a heathen that Neil's hanging around with for your comparison, fine. Just make your argument rather than focusing on the veiled comparison, which is here.
Right. So if Neil is hanging around with, let's just say, a heathen, we're not going to name names, then you can't say that about Dean Odell either. Then does that make
Now,
sense, Neil?
it's a different thing. If you're not, say you're struggling with it and you're not believing, that's the way I believe. That's a different story. He outright knew and outright denied and was very nasty about it in a lot of the chats while shows were going on. I have to go try to find them, but I will. And it was kind of shocking.
Well, I'll give you another example, right? Because I remember Mike Helmick, right? Like he was my mentor in the Lord, and he hung around and talked with Jeranism, right? But his intention was, you know, just to win him to Christ, right? So you can still just keep an open door with other people, with your intention being to win them to Christ. Doesn't mean you always have to, like, you know, talk about things of the Lord, but as long as you just keep a open door with that guy and you just have a communication with him, you know, every now and then there may be opportunity where you can win him to Christ. Does that make
Fine.
sense?
Which leads me to the other thing. He definitely knows about flat earth debate. There's no doubt in my mind he knows about flat earth debate. Can't be in the arena this long. Nathan seems to think nobody knows. It's like a little spot in the internet, little corner. No. You are rocking the boat, Nathan, making major waves throughout the whole flat earth community. So he definitely knows. But I don't care. I'm still going to write out the email and I'm still going to set up a meeting with him.
Do you know what my dad said when I got my first job? Don't rock the boat.
Don't tip the boat over.
Keep your nose down.
Well,
Work hard. You'll be fine. Don't rock the boat.
well, the first thing you did when you got to flat Earth was kick the boat over, wasn't it?
Exactly.
No, I don't know about kicking the boat over. It's we're talking at cross purposes here, right? Neil's referring to rocking the boat internally, which is by definition what rocking the boat is, right? But then when you look on the broader scale, talking about flat Earth is rocking the social boat, which is a much bigger, wider boat that happens to have a pool inside it that's got little boats floating around in it. And that's the boat that Neil's referring to, the little tiny flat Earth boat in the little tiny corner of the internet. That's what I mean. Now that's including whoever you're referring to. But that is an internal boat that I didn't really ever consider would be not number one, a boat I'd be on, or number two, that it'd be capable of being rocked. Now, when you say you rock the boat, I see that socially, but I don't see any consequences because they're not an employer. Now, on YouTube, the rules are different. That's why I always talk about having two hats on. So you have to kind of rationalize it differently. But I never anticipated that I'd be like, well, you're rocking the boat of flat Earth. Well, with what? Well, talking about science proving things when it proves things implicitly and empirically. But that's rocking the boat, apparently. Well, you don't expect those sorts of things, do you?
Nope.
Well, there you go. That's what you're talking about, though, isn't it?
That's correct. I'm saying your name rings bells everywhere in the community, okay?
Right.
So for this guy to be ignorant and think that he don't know about you is crazy.
Okay. But it just sounds like controlled opposition when you describe it like that, doesn't it? Saying I'm going to rock a boat that isn't the boat of the mainstream that we're fighting. There should only be one boat we rock.
Well, maybe I used the wrong phraseology.
It's not that you use the wrong phrase. It's just we're in an arena which seems to be controlled in such a manner that when you're rocking the boat, you're not rocking the mainstream boat of people that know the Earth's a globe. You're rocking a different boat.
Oh, can I add something about this rocking the boat thing? Because I remember somebody pointing out in Discord recently that if you look at the older Witsit videos, he was using a lot of the Nathan and QE arguments. But since the fallout, right, he hasn't been using them anymore. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, in that case, wouldn't it have been better not to rock the boat, and then that way we would have had more exposure? Because everybody's using your arguments more.
My arguments and their exposure level shouldn't depend on whether or not Witsit is on good terms with us or anything of that sort of nature. That's just silly. Now, what Witsit does is Witsit's bag. That's not my problem.
Yeah, but what I understand Righteous is saying, and no, you should always just stick to the guns that we have, which is scientific method. And if you can't validate anything, don't bring it until you can validate it. What they do is they purposely rephrase things. They'll do anything. So the phraseology is not the same as it is in Flat Earth Debate or QE or everybody affiliated with Flat Earth Debate. They go out of their way to not sound like us.
Yeah, but I don't get that. Like having the knowledge of something, right? And being able to formulate that into an argument. Why would you need to give anybody credit for being able to argue a point? I don't get that.
Well, there's no credit to award. That's the thing, isn't it? If you can argue the point, you're not gonna need to thank somebody for being able to or being capable of arguing it. You just argue it and win with it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like people are talking about parroting a discussion, not understanding the point. Is Witsit parroting discussions? Is that what you're saying?
I don't really follow what you mean.
Is his form of speaking changed because he sees what he says as being our argument? That would make him a parrot.
Yeah. But why wouldn't you want to parrot an argument that's devastating?
All right, we just walked right past the point again. Let's go back to the point. If you understand the point, it's nobody's argument but yours at that point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I always say that. Once you say it, it's your argument. Yes, I agree. Publisher be damned. Is that how it goes? Well,
right.
Here's the thing. He has an agenda, though.
Well, you understand the point. You make the point. Like Jaron did with the Black Swan with Brenda. Remember how he shut her up?
Excellent.
He used it well, right? And it was quick, clean, concise, to the point. Right? He didn't have to give anybody credit for that, did he?
And they did, and we wouldn't have deserved it if you know what I mean. He made the argument, shut her down, and that was it. Like, his proficiency with the argument was what won the day.
Right. So if Whitsitt is basing his argumentation style solely on who says something, that makes him a parrot. Are we saying Whitsitt's a parrot?
Yeah. What's it, a parrot? What you want, a cracker? Silly, isn't it? He could look at the other day, that video that Nathan reviewed when he was with the PhD. How many times did he have this guy by the groinkias and did nothing with it? Just because of the way he was phrasing things, or he kept trying to get back onto putting gravity on this guy that the guy never claimed, so he could get his dielectric acceleration and the answer for gravity.
I mean, on the one hand, it could be people looking on, go, live and let live, Neil. Who cares what Whitsitt's doing?
Yeah, I guess so. It's just poisoning. It's poisoning. And it even look at what Dean Orwell the other day. If he had a hold of these arguments, or who knows if he does or he doesn't, I don't know. But he's got an agenda too. He thinks this, superfluid. He thinks this ether is a real thing, and it was proved by experimentation. You know, and which is probably tying it in with God with him when they sit down. So I don't know anymore. But I was happy that QE finally caught up and realized who the scammers were.
So what are we going to do today? We're going to cover a video. Somebody got something they want to cover?
Didn't find anything really decent, Nathan, but I'll put a few suggestions in back office.
Okay, thank you very much. When we get through housekeeping, I'll glance through them and see which one seems half decent if we've run out of things to talk about.
Really? You guys run out of things to talk about?
No, but it's nice to have a video lined up to keep the conversation going if it does get a little bit stale.
Okay. Oh, and I kind of got distracted a bit earlier. Neil, were you asking me something? If you did, I apologize for not answering.
No, I was not asking you nothing.
All right.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sacrifice. If I'm not in my house, if I'm in my car, I am not coming off mute because I do not want to ruin shows.
Fair enough.
But listening back, it's horrible. The freaking roboting. I mean, jeez.
Yes, Neil.
Freaking scream.
I remember the last one happening on the QB show. But QB had a good sense of humor about it.
Yo, but that, I'll tell you what, as frustrating as that was, Adam was in rare form Saturday.
I heard something about that.
Oh my God, I thought QE was going to, well, he did scream a few times.
Yeah, I noticed the dynamics of QE is a little bit different compared to when he's on Nathan's show compared to when he's running his own show. I'm not saying there's anything out of the normal, but I just noticed there's a bit of a dynamic difference.
Yeah, I got the brunt of it. I went to say one thing and I said, shut up. I think I said, cheese. But anyway, I understand what Adam's talking about. It's right there in front of a Christian's face, what the Word of God says. Why they not getting it?
Well, remember, God's word is what? Spiritually discerned, right? You got to spend time with your Lord in your own time.
Righteous.
And
Joshua bid the sun to stand still in the sky. That's plain, cut, dry, need no discernment for that. Know what they taught
I got
me that, well, they didn't know anything about science then, so they thought the sun stood still in the sky. But what we know today was actually God stopping the earth from rotating. Well, what would
I'll
be the
tell you what.
consequences of that? Oh, well, he's God. He could do anything. He could stop the earth and nothing would happen.
I'll tell you about that. That's what the Lord showed me. Like when I did my biblical cosmology series, the Lord showed me, hey, just do this from the perspective or the angle of don't add to my word. And that just eliminates everything. You see, you have to add to God's word to say that it's from this perspective or it's that perspective. But if God's word doesn't
That's my
say
point.
it's from this perspective or that perspective, then you don't add it. But the thing
That's
is,
my
some
point.
people aren't. Yeah, no, but some people aren't trained in that, so they got to get trained into, hey, don't add to God's word, right? So we got to be patient with them and training them that then, before we move on to the next thing, right? So it's like a
Yeah,
step-by-step kind of thing.
what it says, and it said it, and Dean Orwell had him, and he let him escape from it. Start talking about all this other nonsense, conspiracies, and things like that. Just hold his feet to the fire. The word of God says, Joshua bid the sun to stay still in the sky. Right?
All right. Yeah. And when I was watching that thing, I only watched a bit of Lockhart's, like maybe 70% of Lockhart's presentation, because I'm really familiar with the nodal stuff. And I didn't look at it biased or anything like that. I was just looking at the scriptures, and I was surprised Lockhart. I call him Lockhart. It's Locke. Sorry. Uh, I remember Locke. He had this one scripture, where it's as a seal to a clay. And you know what? I looked at that scripture afterwards, and I was like, you know what? That is a quote mine to say that that's talking about the earth. Because when you read the context above and below, it's not talking about the earth at all. It's talking about the day or day spring. Lockhart said it was the sun, but no, it says day. But at least to me, he pointed out that, you know what, that's a quote mine. Because I noticed in FE, there's a lot of quote mines when it comes to FE. They actually ignore what's above and below, and they just give it its own meaning. And what's above and below can be very necessary to understanding the mind quote. But yeah, I remember that.
I think my favorite argument in that whole mess with the two preachers, right, was the angle to the star hasn't changed for thousands of years. And I think the other one's rebuttal was, why would we expect the angle to the star to change?
I heard that. I was thinking of you.
I'm giggling, and nobody brought it up. I'm giggling, and my internet was horrible, so I couldn't say nothing. But, yeah. So whether you think the plane is moving in relation to the star to give you that angle, or the sky is moving in relation to the plane you still think it's a plane, that Earth's a plane.
Well, the answer would be you, if you're Greg Locke, you would expect it to change. That's the answer. You expect it. I don't expect it to change. Why would I? It doesn't. Never has. The answer would be you expect it. That was a burden of proof reversal. It was like putting back the claim back on. If he said that to Dean Odell, then he's putting it back on to Dean Odell.
No, he can't expect it to change. He can't expect to measure it. How would he be able to know it's changed?
Yeah, but from his point of view, when he said that, what he was trying to do is say to Dean Odell, why would you expect it to change? I don't, should have been Dean Odell's. You expected, within your claims, that it does change.
Is it?
You're talking at cross purposes.
I mean,
Brian's talking about the fact that Dean Odell hasn't qualified his claim over their claim to clarify where their claim fails, and he wouldn't expect it to do what they expect it to do. And when he points out that it doesn't do that, it's not that he's expecting it to change. He's pointing out your model would have it change, but it doesn't. And you're responding, you'll need a flat Earth for that, right? Because
I know what John is doing, but I don't know why John is going against me on this. It's like, why are you telling me? I understand they can't get an angle, but within I'm talking about what Greg Locke is trying to do. He's trying to put a burden of proof reversal over onto, you know what I mean? He's trying to take the weak part of his argument to place it over onto Dean Odell. It's like Dean Odell doesn't make a claim about moving. You do.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Is the changing of the angle, right? For an angle to change, you would have to measure the angle first for you to measure a change in the angle. You can't do that on a curved surface. So, is that the baller's argument?
It was, and Brian's critiquing what happened in the moment based on how people argue. Now, that would never happen if they had a different tact in terms of their argumentation. But doesn't change Brian's critique based on what did happen.
Yeah, but
they need a third to even make the claim that it does move.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. Like, there's no argument to be had. Like I said, I can't see an argument. There's no point of contention.
Well, I don't think Dean Odell is not there yet. That's the problem. So I'm going from a point of view of where Dean Odell is. Dean Odell is. You know what I mean? Telling Dean Odell about what you just said is going to go in one ear and out the other. It's not going to register with him yet. Whether it'll ever register with him, this is the problem. Saying you're going to need a flat Earth for that may not. Like this thing about it, it's so simplistic, it won't register with so many people. Do you know what I mean? What I said may register with him.
But I didn't say you'd need a flat Earth for that.
You implied it, though.
I did.
Right, I explained why. I didn't say it. And I'll stop saying it. I'll just explain why from now on.
Jolly good.
No, I'm not saying don't say it. I'm saying from the point of view of, I step into quite a place, Dean Odell, what will he catch on to faster? What I said or what you said? What you said, it's so simplistic. I think that Dean Odell would need to be more complicated. Or I don't know. I just think that would go over his head a bit. Whereas what I said would kind of go, yeah, it's not my claim. He hasn't gotten to the point of, yeah, it's not my claim. He hasn't got to that point yet. But you're going way past that.
Hello.
Morning.
So,
Good morning. Good morning. Good to have you all. Just do a bit of housekeeping. I know the conversation's been rolling on quite nicely in the pre-show, but any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, horizon formerly known as Earth curvature? They were all warmed up, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you, they were all chit-chatting away.
hang on. Well, if the horizon level is sea level, what does that mean?
It means the Earth is flat.
Well, I don't have any evidence for. I don't have any evidence for a physical geometric globe Earth horizon, because they can't have an horizon. And they claim that their horizon is a consistently refracted position, even though they don't have an horizon. And they don't even have refraction. But I do have Ruhiv admitting to me that sea level and horizon level are the same thing. So I don't know how that works with the rest of their claims, but he has admitted that to me.
That doesn't work with their claim. The horizon must be below surface level.
Yes.
And surface level is sea level. Level. It can't be curving if it's level by description and definition. And their horizon is factually below surface level in a geometric geometry that's in orthographic representation. So no, it can't comport with their reality. Earth is flat for that to be true.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's no way that the horizon could be at the same level as the sea level if the Earth was a globe. According to their maths, according to their claims.
This is all according to their claim. However, in physical reality, as contradictory as it seems to be arguing this in 2023, nearly 2024, the horizon is below the level of the eye and represents the level of the surface. Ergo, if you are above the level of the surface, the horizon will be below eye level. Say all the flat earthers, how dare you? No, it's just a fact. It represents where the surface meets the sky, and if you are above the surface, you will be above the horizon. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not from aerospace.
That would cause massive problems, wouldn't it? As our meteorologist friend found out the other week.
Yes, she never replied back to me. So far, anyway. So I don't think I'm going to hear from her. It would be very difficult if the Earth rotated, even if it was a flat plane that rotated, or moved in any way for aerospace to do what they do. It would be could be quite the game changer, let's just say, from what we have at present.
I want to shout out the King of Random channel, right? Because for years and years and years, we've had one side or another in terms of what describes Coriolis from the mainstream perspective. Now, I'm not saying the King of Random are mainstream, but I'm just saying that it's useful to have a video where they're making it clear that Earth rotates underneath as a result of Coriolis deflection, and then packaging that up with snipers and balls tossed over a globe Earth and the deflection that you would notice if that was the case, and the fact that a sniper would have to account for Earth turning underneath. All of those claims packaged into one leave no wiggle room for our opponents. And if you go to that video, right, I can't remember what they named it, TKOR Pancakes, Simon Dan and whatever the other guy, Matthew Learns. That's the title of the video. It's actually called Cute Coriolis Smashed or something like that. Anyway, Cute Coriolis Scientist. What was the words that Simon Dan used? Ruined. There you go. That's
Ruined.
the name of so it's Cute Coriolis Scientist Ruined. If you try and find it via that, that's the first bit of the title, you'll find it. But check out the comments in that video because there's no wiggle room. So it's pure 100% ad hom. Nathan's an idiot, because that's all they've got to throw back. Because what you're going to do, I lie. Occasionally you'll see in there, oh well, you don't understand Coriolis. It's like, we're critiquing a video from a scientist who claims to know what Coriolis is, and she says Earth turns underneath. You know, there's no way around it from their perspective on the anti-flat Earth side, which is great for us. Now, it may seem weird giving her admiration for actually just delivering the globe Earth rhetoric as it stands, but as it stands, it's much easier to debunk. So Earth rotates under sniper fire and helicopters. No, it don't. Yeah, you might be able to blag that it does under a bullet that's only in the air for a couple of seconds. But in terms of what that would do to aircraft, it's a massive, massive problem. But it's nice to have you overtly state that, the King of Random. Thank you. So we can debunk it, point out how Earth is not turning underneath, but it would need to be to have Coriolis, which is what you claim. Any
Hello.
more on this?
Do I sound good?
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah, not bad.
All right. Yeah, I was thinking about this whole Coriolis effect. Maybe, are you sure they were talking about the Coriolis effect and not the Coriolis effect? Because I'm sure the Coriolis effect is an actual deviation and has absolutely nothing to do with the Coriolis effect.
Okay. Yeah, that gag went over on Ballbusters well the first 2 times, but then after that, you know, especially with a drunk Adam, it just caused more and more confusion.
Yes, I was there.
I know. Anyway, no, we are definitely talking about the globe Earth claim that it has 2 reference frames. That's Coriolis effect. Ergo, Earth is claimed to turn underneath stuff. That's the claim. That's what Coriolis is. If Earth's claimed to have Coriolis, which it is, then it's turning underneath stuff, which it isn't. That's where we debunk them. Right, 43 people watching. Please smash the share button. We are so neglected in the YouTube algorithm. So if you're here, thank you very much for joining, first and foremost. Really appreciate you being here. But please share the show. Smash that share button. Okay, we'll do a couple, maybe 1 or 2 more housekeeping questions. We'll see how we get on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
None whatsoever. We only have angular data. No actual positions can be measured.
For that angular data, you'll need a flat Earth for.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they got nothing other than a circular reasoning argument, where they found out the distance to the sun by pre-assuming that the Earth was a globe of radius 3959 miles, and they pre-assumed that Venus was also a globe of radius 3959 miles, or extremely close to that. And from there, with the transit of Venus across the sun, they determined that via angular sizes, with the sun being 0.5 degrees on average, and the angular size of Venus in comparison to the 0.5 degree on average sun angular size, that they figured out the distance to the sun via the size of Venus, right? They know how far away the sun must be and how big it is based off of the pre-assumption that the Earth is a globe of radius 3959 miles and that Venus is also a globe of radius close on 3959 miles. And how they know the distance to Venus? Because they know the distance to the sun. So they know the distance to the sun because they know the distance to Venus, and they know the distance to Venus because they know the distance to the sun. Problem solved.
Well,
no illogic there.
There is some logic in it, which is going to be slightly difficult to understand at first, right?
Illogic, I said.
What did you say, sorry?
I said no illogic there. In other words,
illogic. Yeah, there's a lot of illogical nonsense in that. But one of the ones I want to focus on specifically is where we're focused primarily on the Kepler assumption and the Huygens assumption, which has just been detailed quite admirably by Brian. I'm going to say that particular outrageous assumption by Huygens in the narrative may be a bit of a feast of nonsense, red herring, whatever you want to call it. And I beg your indulgence, right? If where you describe them, assuming Venus has the, quote, same spherical value as Earth, that's quite a useful segue from one to the other, where in reality, that's where the former use of flat Earth turns into a switcheroo, and we formerly called it just the assumption of R. Well, hang on a second. If Venus has the same radial value as Earth, and Earth's radial value is derived from a flat plane, then it's improper to assume that assumption by Huygens takes the orbital reference from Kepler that's taken from a flat plane and infers that the radial value derived off a flat plane matches the spherical R value of Venus. Well, that should be the focus, should it not? As opposed to what an outrage, you just assumed it was the same R value as Earth. Earth doesn't have an R value as a sphere, as he implies with Venus. But we're always focused on the Huygens assumption that Earth has a radius to match with Venus. But it doesn't. It's taken from a flat plane. Do you see my focus swing in terms of Huygens? What should we focus on? His outrageous assumption that R is the same for Earth as Venus. Venus is a light in the sky. Earth's where we stand. It's soil, water. It's not anything to do with anything sphere-shaped. that you can derive from the movements of the star that you're going to then imply back onto the stars a radial value derived from their movements over our surface. That doesn't take you to the sphere assumption of a sphere Earth matching Venus, does it? But that is primarily where our focus lies. I think that's wrong. Our focus should lie on the fact that he doesn't have a spherical R value to compare radial values of assumed spheres in the sky called Venus to an Earth derived from a radial value off a flat plane. That makes no sense. Until we phrase it, well, he assumes it's got the same spherical R value as Earth. That seems useful for the ballers.
Yeah, I think that the circular reasoning is enough for people to throw it out the window, especially with the question of any evidence of the R value. And then we detail how it comes from a flat plane, from flat plane measurements, the Polaris. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think what Nathan's saying is, as long as you keep the pre-assumption intact that Earth is a sphere, and you just got lucky guessing at the size for the ratio that does line up, they can build off that.
Correct. As long as we allow them. But what happened when we pointed out eventually to Mick West that he's assuming the R value? Yeah, he tentatively had to admit to it, but he admitted to it nevertheless. Yeah, under his breath. When we put it in front of Rumpus, yeah, we do. Several of them say, yeah, we do just assume that we've got an R value. We know that Earth's a sphere. Well, why is that tolerated? Why do we then have to have the black swan to say, okay, well, if you're going to assume Earth's a sphere, it'll have a radius of 3959 miles and the distance to the horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, like in your maths, if you assume R, as you say you do. No, you don't. You measure R. It's not spherical. And it'll need a flat Earth to get it. So while we've begged their indulgence that they can assume Earth's a sphere, it allows them the opportunity or the opening to say, yeah, because we already know. No, you don't. You're measuring a flat plane.
No, because they don't measure R. That's the point. That's the point. They never measured R. They measured angles, flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris, which allowed them to create the latitude and longitude.
Exactly, like you said a couple of weeks ago. Exactly.
Yeah. So the point is that they calculate an R based off of a back engineering, mathematical back end. I'm very specific, and I would say it, a mathematical back engineering of those measurements. So they don't have R. They don't have a measurement of R. They can only pre-assume an R based on the pre-assumption of a globe, and their pre-assumptions and calculations come directly from flat plane measurements.
Precisely.
So I don't know if we need to go any more complicated than that.
Well, it's just a minor adaptation of what we would say already. So where you say, well, in my diatribe, I would go through how Huygens assumed, as you have detailed, that the R value of Venus matches with the planar derived values of R when measuring angles. Well, that's much more accurate. It doesn't allow them the assumption of a spherical Earth based on what? Based on planar angle measurements, deriving a planar R value that's based on where things in the sky match up with things on the ground. So to say that, well, because things in the sky match up here with things on the ground and we can get a circle out of that, I'm going to say that the circle on the ground from the stars actually makes Earth a perfectly acceptable sphere to assume when we say that it matches up with the sphere I'm assuming it matches with Venus. No, there's a big disconnect there that we've just let slide. Out to Theo Megawerty. He says, distance to the sun is 1. Hold on, I should bring this on screen while I read it out. Sorry, Theo. Distance to sun is, 1. 1 is the loneliest. 1 is the loneliest number that you'll ever know. Indeedy. Thank you, Theo. Really appreciate the support. 2 could be as sad as 1. It's the loneliest number. I won't. Should we do one more housekeeping question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the show, let's be honest.
I like to do a couple a day, so that by the end of the week we've got through all of them. But I'll do one more. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Well, no. I mean, the question is actually, To be honest with you, that question is, it's a non-starter. Doesn't make any sense. It's like the antecedent for gas pressure is a container, something to press upon, a physical container, a solid. It's a phase of matter. Has to be a solid phase of matter. This is just the antecedent. That's where gas pressure, that's how we create gas pressure. It's also how we have temperature. You can't have temperature without a physical solid, right, container, and you can't have a vacuum without a physical solid container. So in a way, we should really change that. I don't know if we should, but maybe we should re-look at that question, because by saying, is there any evidence, it's like we're leaving the door open to someone thinking that there might be. It's impossible to have evidence for something that's impossible to happen.
Nah, it's like saying, no, hold on. What about if I say, you know what kills off Superman, right? Pieces of his old planet Krypton. Well, you've got that rock. It's called kryptonite. Have you ever heard of that? Nobody's saying yes. Is kryptonite alien to you all?
Yes, kryptonite. I couldn't get to the mute button because I mute. I didn't want to, I always mute. Go on.
So you've heard of kryptonite?
Yes.
Well, he doesn't actually have to touch kryptonite, does he? He can just come within its proximity or close to it, and it will affect him because of the emanated field, the energy that it gives off. You with me so far?
Yes.
Well, notwithstanding that kryptonite does give off this obvious field, I would put it to you that field developed by kryptonite is containing the energy of the kryptonite. Therefore, it's a container. Prove me wrong.
Well, I think I know where Brian's going with this.
Hold on, let's just see how he addresses it, though. Let's just see how he addresses it. I'm saying...
I can't reply to that. It's such a load of nonsense. I'm sorry.
Hypothetically, you could just say, we haven't got any kryptonite.
Yeah, but I'm in the realm of absolute nonsense. I can't respond. I'm sorry.
Normally, that's the correct answer. No, you shouldn't be sorry. You're giving the right answer. We're in the realm of nonsense. What, like with gravity? I just juxtaposed gravity with kryptonite, didn't I? When you're talking about containerless containers.
Yeah, you can't have a containerless container. That makes absolutely zero sense. You know what I mean? the whole lot makes sense. No sense. And gravity then is debunked. A force of gravity is debunked by vacuum weight.
But there is no gravity.
You know what I mean? But my point, there is none. It doesn't exist.
Where I was trying to lead you, Brian, was to say, rather than getting into the wrangle-dangle of what is or isn't kryptonite, see where I'm going? There is no kryptonite.
Are you saying kryptonite is just kryptonite, whether people like it or not?
Yeah, like it doesn't matter that you don't like the fact that gravity does contain gas within the heliocentric system. You don't have to like that fact about gravity and what it does in a pseudo-geometry of force-based linear. Likewise, you'd have to like that kryptonite contains the force of the energy that can destroy Superman. You know, it's within a field around the rock, and that field that's around it is, strictly speaking, containing the force that can destroy Superman. Now, one answer, which you gave correctly, is this is nonsense. I'm not even going to argue about this. You could take that attitude with gravity also, though, couldn't you, Brian? Because it's exactly the same.
Yeah, I like the thing about this is that what you just said a moment ago is the killing of the conversation. As you said, within the heliocentric paradigm, gravity contains gas. Within that paradigm, just like the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the heliocentric globe.
As I was going next.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, I won't stand in your way.
Well, hold on a sec, because I think the question could be phrased, does gas fill space?
Yeah, that's the summary of it all, isn't it? Does gas fill space? Yes, it does. It's a law of nature, second law of thermodynamics, exactly as Brian's logically taken this to. So, what we're going to do in the model? Well, do you not appreciate that the second law of thermodynamics, that law of nature that applies to all things always in the nature that we experience in our physical reality, does not apply to the Earth in the heliocentric model, you know, with Earth curved spheres below surface level and gas not filling space? What's wrong with you? Containers, gravity.
The thing is, Well, hold on. The thing is, if they say no, gas does not fill space, you can turn Brian loose on him, because then gas will have to have weight to not fill space, and he can just rip them to shreds.
But it doesn't.
If they accept
Yeah, but it doesn't, though,
if
does
they
it?
accept,
Gas goes down. We've got these layers, homogeneous layers of sphere-shaped air that gradiate their way up from surface level. You can measure the height based on their gradation of layers of, like I say, homogeneous isotropic layers. What do you want? Yes, gas go down, go boom boom.
well,
Yeah, but we could maybe bypass all of that with a different question based off a kind of an add-on to what John just asked. What prevents gas from expanding into open spaces?
Nothing. Containers. But that's not an open space. That's a redundant question, or a contradictory question. Not expanding into the open space. The only answer to that is the antecedent consequent relationship of containment. But then it violates your question. Well, what stops it expanding into it? Nothing. It expands into open space, Brian. So to phrase the question, what stops it expanding into open space? Nothing. It's a law of nature. It will expand into the open space. But if you contain it, it's then not got an open space to expand into, violating your question.
What about if we change the question around again and we say, what is used to stop gas expanding into open spaces?
No, we don't want to be putting them in a position where they're trying to explain to us their violation of natural law, was my point. You know,
that's their problem.
How do you have gas pressure without a container? You're asking them for an explanation because you're using the word how. You're baiting them.
Well, hey, you got any evidence of kryptonite?
Yeah, that's a good point. Hold on, just before you come in, whoever's coming in from Discord, yes, that's correct. We're baiting them because it's phrased carefully for a housekeeping question. Now, that is not to say that upon understanding of the argument, you can't more carefully phrase the question to not bait your opponent. I would say that rather than phrasing it as a question at all, as we criticised Dave Weiss in the last couple of episodes, you wouldn't phrase it as a question. It's a statement of fact. Gas fills space. Oh, what's that say? You say there's a massive area of space above my head where rockets go. Gas fills space. We would be dead. If the rockets can go there, the gas that fills space would go there. Why? Because gas fills space. Whatever space it's got, it will fill it. So if the sky is a 10 to the minus 17 Tor vacuum is claimed in the heliocentric model, then that's a massive area of, what do they call it again? Oh yeah, space for the gas to fill. We'd never have developed gas pressure. We wouldn't be breathing. So the sky is not a vacuum. Why? Gas, we're breathing it. Fills, that spreads out in all directions. Space, that's your violation of natural law. Sky vacuum debunked. I'm done.
I think AI had something to say from Discord.
Go ahead, whoever it was. I think it was AI.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna request the evidence for kryptonite. Since there is none, we can just dismiss kryptonite. Secondly, you don't need a physical phase of matter to prevent gas from expanding. All you need is the end of available free space. So, for example, if there's no more free space to occupy, then the gas wouldn't go any further. And the boundary of the available free space is entirely a metaphysical or hypothetical, which nobody knows the answer to, neither in the flat Earth community or the globe Earth.
You know how that counter space can be described fourth dimensionally? AI.
What?
You know how that counter space can be described geometrically and as a fourth dimension? I'm just asking for a quick affirmation. I've got other things to add.
Not sure where you're going, so go ahead.
Oh, you'll see shortly. Imagine that fourth. This is obviously conceptually complex. I'll start slower and further back. Imagine if you were a two-dimensional drawing. I won't. But you know where I'm going now. Counter space can be described geometrically in a fourth dimension. Now imagine that fourth dimension bending. Yeah. Now that warping of that fourth dimension would give rise to the contained force of kryptonite. Do you understand?
Oh, okay. So within the lore of your fake universe, that's how it would work if your universe existed, but it doesn't, since you have no evidence for it. Gotcha.
No, it does exist. This describes our reality. I'm describing it within a quasi-bent counterspace fourth dimension that, when bent, gives rise to the force that kryptonite would give off. Now, you don't have to like it, but that is a description of our reality. You're just too stupid to understand it. But it is a description of reality. Okay, Flat Earther?
It's not, though. It's a description of your
Excuse me,
belief.
don't rumpus. AI would like to respond to the bent fourth dimensional counterspace time dimension that gives rise to the force of kryptonite. That has containment within its description because kryptonite, the non-force thereof, gives rise to kryptonite force, obviously. See? Stunned. Doesn't know what to say. It's been educated. It's been schooled. Now he knows that not only do we describe the reality of kryptonite forces in this fourth dimensional pseudo-geometry, but that is our world. Glad you all understand now. Kryptonite's real. It's got a force. It contains its force. And gives rise to a force.
That would only carry if functional descriptions necessarily mean that that's what's occurring in reality, but that would be a reification fallacy at its core. You still have to prove all the conditional premises.
It's incorrect. I'm not reifying the fourth dimension into our existence. The fourth dimension in the geometry describes our existence. That's not a reification.
No problem, friend. I agree with you. I agree with you that if you have a descriptive model and name it a descriptive model, that's all it ever is. It's not reality. It's just a model of describing things.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
This case,
I'm fine with that.
That's fine. Yeah. In this case, it's describing reality. Perfect. I could do this all
we're
day.
so far away from that filling space.
Let's not worry. Look, the further I can take this away from whether or not kryptonite... Look, I am just trying to take this further away from our kryptonite is or isn't real as quickly as possible. Now, if we can get onto the focus of whether or not AI understands conceptual bent counterspace mediums and the rise of the force that they give, then the better, because we're getting further and further away from whether or not kryptonite's real or what it even is, like gravity.
Well, what was it the AI said originally? What was your statement originally? That was a bit of a head scratcher there. I didn't fully grasp what you meant.
Yeah, my first statement was, where's the evidence kryptonite is real? That's where it all ended, right? So I could have entertained anything Nathan said, or I could have just said, dude, until you have evidence kryptonite is real, I don't care about your explanations of it and what it does or what it could do. But then I said, secondly, that if gas fills available free space, then a physical containment isn't required to stop it from expanding, right? All you need is no more available free space to enter, which is a problem of the boundaries of existence, right? Like the physical natural world, that old question, where's the boundary? Does it go on forever? Does it stop? That boundary, that problem exists in both quote unquote paradigms.
Perfect. I could kiss you. Perfect. That's where I was trying to juxtapose. You just did a better job than I did there. Right. When I'm trying to juxtapose kryptonite with gravity, you're saying I won't entertain this discussion when it's kryptonite. Why? Because it's overtly obvious that it isn't real. But yet, when it's subtly introduced as being something that's real, when there's a focus on how gas behaves, you will entertain the idea of it being real and debate within the paradigm, Brian, specifically?
No, he was dealing with the container, though. Sorry, go ahead.
I could be wrong, but are you saying that if there's no more free space to go into, gas won't go into it, as opposed to a claim of a solid container?
He just said if there is no available free space, then gas will not fill it. Now, the only way we can show that, hold on, it makes sense, and it keeps you away from where's your container, Flat Earther?
Yeah, I just want to clear up. Is AI saying that the available free space is not there, and so the gas just won't go in there, so we don't need solid containment for the gas? Or is he saying that if the free space is not, I'm not 100% with what what he's saying. I don't fully get what he's saying.
Oh, it's like this. This is an old philosophical question, right? Which is within the globe paradigm as well. So they make excuses to get around it. Like they'll tell the flat earther, where's the edge of your reality, right? And if you can't show me, then your reality can't be real. But they have the same problem. Like if you just set your position and say, okay, I'm just going to continue to travel in a straight line ad infinitum, no matter which position you pick, right? Will you eventually stop, or will you continue forever? Which one of those is going to come true? Now, if you say, well, I could just keep going forever, never stop ad infinitum, then you're making a philosophical claim that available free space continues forever.
There is an answer
So
to
if
this.
there's no more, go ahead.
No, you finish first. And there's a couple of people that want to go. Go ahead, AI.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so this is actually one that Professor Phil tried pulling on us, where he said, oh, the globe has a container, the end of the universe, right? So you just kick the can. But whenever you reach the end of available free space, gas isn't going to keep going. It can't. There's nowhere for it to go.
That's not true
So at that point...
Go ahead, sorry, I thought you were done again with the conclusion. Go ahead, sorry, my bad, second time.
Well, I was just going to say, at that point, if there's nowhere for it to go, it wouldn't need a physical container to stop it from going anywhere, because it's not going to go anywhere anyway.
Okay, so the globe fails to explain that in the way you've explained, but you said we have the same problem. Well, we don't. There's an answer for it in quantum mechanics, isn't there? Because of the lack of information at the edges of reality, if you want to infer this by example, then there is no retained information that can be taken at a later date from a knower to render that as an actual thing in existence, is there? Based purely on what quantum mechanics shows us.
Objection. No, you're going down the Sabine Hassenpfeffer route of nobody's there to measure it, therefore it's not feeling it.
Only with gas, but I'm saying in terms of just physical reality, you can extrapolate this out into gas thereafter. But what I'm saying is, without the information at the edges of the extremities of what we call our known world, there is no information on it. Therefore, by virtue of quantum mechanics, there isn't that. It's back to the if there's a tree in the forest and it falls, does it make a sound? Well, if we're in that exact idea to cement the audience's mind about what we're talking about, when you get to the edges of reality, where in the heliocentric paradigm you're at the edges of the CMB, you're at the what they call the start of existence, but the fringes of what we can see at the edges of our reality through a telescope or whatever it is they're quantifying it with. Well, in quantum mechanical terms, you've got a different explanation because there is no information on that particular part of our world. So when Quantum Eraser and myself jape about this particular aspect, you get to the conclusion that, does it make a sound? Well, the answer to the question is there is no tree, because there is no information on the tree. If there was information on the tree and some knower, that would be you had information, full stop, on the tree, and in order to meet that prerequisite, you have to have a knower for the information, regardless if it can be attained at a later date or not, then the tree will always exist. But if you don't, then it doesn't. It becomes the same as a probability distribution in terms of what we see when we look at things like the double slit. You can't actualize the reality of anything unless you have information. Now, at the edges of where there is anything, you end up with no tree until someone goes to that area. Then there is a tree if there's a tree. It is like that. You can only render reality if there's knowledge on the reality. That explains it within quantum mechanic terms, where the heliocentric model can't.
But you created an informational paradox within the question.
About the gas?
No, about the tree, because you would have to know the tree existed to know it fell, right?
I realised that after I said it. There's a way that QE phrases it that ignores that paradox, that I just can't remember how he phrased it. But the basics of what I'm saying you understand, right?
No, it means you can't ask the question because you don't know about any tree.
Right, but what it applies to what AI was talking about, because we don't, as far as gas filling space, that means there may not be any more space for gas to fill because reality hasn't rendered that far.
Yeah, that's in
Yeah,
effect.
but the problem. Go on,
But that is an explanation that is tolerable and even scientifically valid. Whereas in the heliocentric model, to assert that gas won't follow natural law at the edges of where it hasn't expanded out yet makes no sense. But to explain that you require information to have a reality in the first place does make sense and is scientifically validatable. Therefore, we have an explanation. Don't have to like it, but they don't.
Yes and no, because the problem with it is, AI can correct me, or John can correct me if you want what I'm going to say. But I think what AI is saying is that they claim a space for gas to go to, so the gas should be going there. We don't. If there isn't a space, then the gas won't be going there. But at that point, I think you're moving into the realms of making a claim outside of gas pressure requires solid containment. Whereas we can prove all day long that gas pressure requires solid containment, but we can't prove that there isn't a space.
Well,
we can only say if there isn't a space, then the gas won't. We can only say that if there isn't a space, then the gas won't fill it.
Right. So
you'd be better off leaving them have the. Just let me finish this part. I'm just saying you'd be better off leaving the ballers claim that there is a space as opposed to us saying if there isn't. But that's not a strong position.
We don't have to.
It's an intellect.
You don't have to argue for that. You don't have to argue for the non-existence of anything ever.
Right, but that's why I said the question: does gas fill space?
Exactly. That's their positive claim, and it addresses it head on. Their claim. It even linguistically lines up space, like outer space, shortened to space. Space is just length, breadth, and depth. Well, that would be the area of volume, PV equals nRT, the amount of volume that you have. Well, their claimed volume is outer space. Space for gas to fill. So the primary question for their primary claim that the sky is a vacuum is, does, if you phrase it as a question, gas fill space? Correct, John?
Yeah, well, that's a good question because all they can come back, what they will come back at you with is, it's a good question, but the problem is what they'll come back at you with. What they'll say if you ask one of them that, what they'll say is, yes, it does, unless there is a force or container containing it. And they'll add in their little force at that point. At which point you're into a gravity argument as opposed to them addressing.
Are you though? So when I say kryptonite, that can be just dismissed out of hand. Finally, we're back to this. I'm just going to shout out Uncle Ben. FED is such a great show. Always challenging each other and giving no quarter. Makes me laugh when people call it an echo chamber. Yeah.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Yeah, it's because Brian's mostly wrong. That's why we have to challenge him so often.
You know that because you're always agreeing with me.
That's why I said if they answer no to that question, we just turn Brian loose on them, and they're going to have to claim gas has weight because of a force of gravity.
Which they do. They do claim. That's exactly what they do claim. It's just at that point, it's whether or not they're in line with their own claim or want to squirm. Because in line with their own claim, gas go down, go boom, boom. Gas has weight, gas has mass. Doesn't matter if they claim that it's the force that's been given rise to a non-force by way of bent space-time, or Newtonian simple force of mass attracting mass to the Earth. That's gas with mass going down, go boom, boom. It doesn't, but it does in their rhetoric. Just depends if they'll squirm or not. That's all you're assessing at that point. It's the character or intelligence level, it might be pure ignorance, of your opponent. Does gas fill space? Answer, yes it does. Space is fake. Outer space does not exist. No, gas go down, go boom, boom. Now at that point you can choose to question the integrity of your opponent or just prove them wrong.
Well, I was thinking about another question, back to what John asked, is like, does gas fill space? The question I had was a variation on that was if, based off of that question and what AI said, What about, if there is a space, will gas fill it?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So what would a baller say to that? If there is a space, will gas fill it? They can only come back at you, I suppose, with the same nonsense.
I like the phraseology, though.
If there is a space,
I like that
can
phraseology.
contain-
That's spot
Yeah.
on. Because, say it one more time.
If there is a space, will gas fill it?
If there is a space, will gas fill it? That's more akin to getting an answer from a baller. It's a trap. Yeah, if there's a space, then gas will fill it. Is space a space for gas to fill?
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Because at that point, they can't even fall back on PV equals nRT. Because when you're saying there is a space, like space can be within a sealed containment system, right? That's still a space for gas to fill. Like an empty container, right? That is a space. If you put gas into an empty container, it will fill the container. But if they're claiming a space, then they can't even juxtapose, throw in, like another way they want to shoehorn in their force of gravity claim next to a solid container. They'll go, like they want, like with the other question with John saying, if does gas fill space, they would say, yes, unless there is a force present or a solid container preventing it. Whereas this one, you're saying, if there is a space, will gas fill it? They can't even go to the container because, you know, an empty container is a space as well. They have to go, they have only one, you know what I mean? What are they going to say? Well, if there's a force, what did they do? They have to either say, if they say no, then that's wrong. They have to say yes, don't they? If there is a space, gas will fill it. Or the only thing they can say is talk about a force. They can't even talk about container at that point because an empty container is a space.
The
Still a container.
kryptonite does overcome this argument, though.
No. See, this is the thing. We're lost for years with this, and we need to find a way around it. We're constantly going into a debate with people who want to bring us into their beliefs.
Well, hold on. It's because we deal with a lot of deniers who deny that Krypton even existed. They don't realise that the dusty lights that we see through the telescope is the remnants of Krypton. I mean, you guys are just deniers of science.
Well, the only question is, do you believe in kryptonite?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, that's a belief you hold. That is not a knowing. It's not knowledge. It's not physics. It's something you believe in.
It is physics. I can show you the pseudo-geometry of it very easily. That's physics.
Well, what does this kryptonite do to the air?
The non-force of kryptonite, because it's just a rock to you and I, obviously, gives rise to the force of kryptonite. Now, I could explain it. It's quite complex counter-space geometry.
No, it's okay. What does it do to the air? What effect does it have on our air?
Makes it go down, go boom, boom.
But that would mean that objects weighed in a vacuum would weigh less. Because once you remove that force of down.
They do.
They don't.
No,
objects
they do.
Weighed in a vacuum weigh more.
Oh, they do.
Well, at that point, what are you going to do? Someone's... they do.
You see what I mean? How that question about filling space, though, it leads them right into Brian tearing their leg off like a wild animal.
Yeah, which he just did. I just didn't mean it by going, he do, or whatever I said.
At that point, there was no point in going on forward. All right? We learned that over the years. At that point, when someone's going to be ridiculous, he's go, that's it, it's over. You know what I mean? It's just someone just being a sore loser at that point. You know, that wasn't a goal. It wasn't a goal. You know what I mean? Oh, you didn't see it. That's because it happened behind you. Yeah, well, if I didn't see it, it didn't happen. It's like saying that kind of thing. You know, it's like I scored the goal. I mean, I didn't see it. It's like a goalkeeper saying, I didn't see it go in, so that means it didn't go in the goal. It's as ridiculous as that, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but at that point, they'll sabotage the rest of the conversation because they've lost. And a lot of the times when we do a show, last time this happened was with that Ethereum guy with a foreign accent. I've forgotten his name. You knew his full name, Brian.
Georgie.
Johnny B.
Oh, Johnny Bernard. But see, the problem with that is that when we entertain past that point, we should stop entertaining past that point. It's over. Because when we're entertaining past that point, we're only allowing them to have some kind of a forewind of some kind. It's like, no, they have to have the intellectual honesty to admit they're wrong, or just they need to be on mute because there's no reason for them to continue talking. I know it's a bit of a harsh move, but it's like it has to be, because why should you waste your time? Now, okay, sometimes I understand, Nathan, you'll do it, and sometimes I understand it's good for the audience, people who are new to hear this. But like with Johnny Bernard's, it was useful. But most time with ballers, there's no point in continuing on. It's like when I say, in debates, when I show something to be correct, and it's 100% correct, undebunkable, and the baller tries to come up with some nonsense. At that point, once I show something to be correct, I can just stand up and walk out of the debate. I don't need to continue. I don't need to stay there for another hour debating. If I'm in it, not that I go into these stupid debates with these stupid ballers, but if I was, you don't need, the flat earthers need to know when it's time to go. Thanks for the debate. Goodbye. It's over. The longer you stay and entertain them, the more validity you're giving to people who don't have validity after the point of them being debunked.
Oh, you just want to mute them, Brian?
Well, in a debate, you can just if a one-on-one debate, like it's like when Caleb, or was it Caleb? No, who was it against against Ruhif, the lad against Ruhif, and when Ruhif admitted something about the geometric horizon, something about, can't remember what it was. You might remember, Nathan. My memory's gone. But once
he used a bit of confessional, debating against the guy, and the guy, instead of falling for the dupe where perspective worked in his favour for globe Earth,
yes,
which it doesn't. He just went, well, you've just proven my point. Kudos. Thank you. Good night. Pretended to put his hat on.
Yeah, exactly. When Ruhif said, it's just unresolvable. Once Ruhif said that, he just said, thanks for the debate. Goodbye. There's no need to stay after that point. It's over. At that point, your opponent has admitted defeat. But if you don't see that, like as you say often the time, Nathan, and said it for a couple of years now, flat earthers don't realise when they've won. You've won at that point. Once the confession comes out, walk away. Because otherwise you're spending an hour of your life or 2 hours more of your life arguing with someone who's willing to know they lost but continue debating. What's the point?
Hello, Quantum Eraser.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Good to have you. Your arrival didn't break the tone or timbre of the show or anything. Well, there we go.
Well, and fair enough.
Have you recovered from Adam rumpusing your show?
Am I over it?
Have you recovered? Was the headache subsided?
I recovered quite quickly.
That would have given me a massive headache if it was my show.
I was laughing. It was. I watched that whole episode. That was kind of funny. Just see QE and Adam's interactions was worth watching it.
My wife came in. She never comes in. I don't think I can remember a single time that she's come in to listen to a Ballbusters ever. That's the first time. And she came down and she was sat chuckling and adding her 2 pennyworth about how funny Adam was. So, you know, I had some affirmation that it's like, no, don't shut him down too much. Have you finished your wolf pup thing now? You're dragging on a bit.
On Craig, yeah, that's done.
I don't know why he did it, to be honest.
Boredom.
Fair enough. It's content, I guess. You're dealing with chav criminals. I mean, what do you expect?
Well, he came out into my radar range, which is admittedly not as wide as it used to be, but this problem.
Fair enough. We did actually have a video lined up to cover today, but given that we're at 8 minutes left of this live stream, it's probably not for the best of the start covering something now.
I wanted to talk about one of the housekeeping questions you covered before.
Brilliant. That'll chew up 8 minutes.
It's regarding the distance to the sun. So, we have this flat earther claiming, he shared a meme in which it says that the Earth is bigger than the sun, or you can put it the other way around, the sun is smaller than the Earth. And it had Morpheus from the Matrix's image, just trying to look cool and everything. And I cross-questioned that if you are saying this, then you are making a vacuous claim without knowing the actual distance or size or nature of the sun. You are making a claim which you cannot substantiate. Let's try to avoid such mistakes, which we came out of within heliocentrism, and we point out similar mistakes within heliocentrism. So his response came as, I was expecting someone to say that, and he presented the spotlight effect or the hotspot effect as a proof of the sun being close. A result of that is crepuscular rays and everything. But basically, you must have seen images of the hotspot of the sun on clouds. So that was his basis. Any comments on that?
Okay.
So the sun is a flashlight over a flat plane?
He's saying when he shows crepuscular rays coming through the clouds, right? I mean, I've seen plenty of those images, and okay, fine. Notwithstanding that you can have crepuscular rays with a point of convergence on the sun with a spot directly below the sun. Okay, how high is it then? Would be my next question. Give it me in feet.
Yeah, it's like you'd nearly say he's right, except for there's absolutely no basis for him proving it. You know, the probability is the sun is not as big as the Earth, but we don't even know what the sun is, the state either way. So you're walking, it's like with a meme that shows Morpheus and these kind of things or whatever, with Neo or whatever, Matrix nonsense. You're walking into a hallway of razors because you can't prove it. You can just, it's inference, not proof.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that inference. You can say, based on this hotspot, the sun gives off the impression that it's pretty damn close. I go, yeah, it does, doesn't it? As a throwaway discussion amongst friends, I wouldn't have a hesitation to agree with that inference. But I go, but if they went, yeah, it's definitely less than 3,000 miles. I go, whoa, 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 whoa. How did you measure it? How do you know? What is the sun? And they go, well, it's that light up there. I go, okay. So it's kind of circular to say that, but fine. I'll just let that slide and we'll go on to the height that must be less than 3,000, whatever's units that you're going to infer. How'd you measure it? Oh, well, we take an angle to it. Oh, okay. What about in an hour? Will it be closer to the horizon, given that we're edging towards dusk? Oh, yeah, it'll definitely be. So would that change the angle? Yeah, it would, yeah. So what use is that? Oh, none. It changes. Right, so when it's on the horizon, you're going to tell me that its height is 0? Is it touching the horizon, touching the ground, 0 elevation above the ground? It's absurd. You've got no methodology to measure its height.
Well, the equivalence you drew was the spotlight effect, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to draw that equivalence, you got to believe the Earth is or the sun is a spotlight. I don't. How do you know that?
Because it looks like one with a hotspot below it, like a torch. If you took a smoke machine, filled your room, put a torch dangling above your head on a piece of string, and then had the light coming down, you'd see the angle that it came out of the torch with a spot on the smoke in the middle of the room. That's what they're saying it looks like.
So murderers are covered in blood. Anybody I see covered in blood is a murderer.
By juxtaposition and comparison in this example, then yes.
Right. So any doctors that are fresh out of surgery need to be hung. Anybody that works as a butcher probably needs to be hung.
This is a political question for a different forum, perhaps. Oh, by comparison. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the logic, isn't it? Covered in blood equals murder. No, it doesn't. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean murder. So,
but we can
the logic is flawed.
we can do the whatever it's called, Monty Python application of logic, can't we? Or does it produce light? Yes, it does produce light. Right. Does it create a spot below the smoke machine, like the clouds? Yes, it does. Well, therefore, it's a torch.
Yeah. Therefore, it's a duck. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's get the scales out and weigh her.
If she weighs the same as a duck, then she's made of wood and therefore a witch. Therefore, we can burn her. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does look like a torch. It looks like that. That's what you'd infer from it. But should we, A, concern ourselves with drawing seemingly logical inferences what the sun is, when it's claimed to be an enormous ball of gas burning in a sky vacuum 93 million miles away in orbit based on flat plane measurements? Which should we do? One, make our outrageous claim that we can't back so that people can argue with that, or two, debunk their claim because they're taking a measurement of an angle off a flat plane as well. So just point out where when they claim their height to their sun, which they claim is 93 million miles away, will need a flat plane to make that claim. Once you've done that, you've got their claim using a flat plane and obliterating their distance. When you make the claim, you just end up in a false dichotomy where both of you will claim that you can measure the distance off a flat plane, but one has actually got the accurate 93 million mile distance for all the reasons of an intelligent person that should know better. Therefore, Earth's a sphere because you've got a flat plane measurement of an angle to the sun.
Nathan,
go on.
How else are you going to explain the current dangers of solar flares?
Are you on acid? What?
Don't you know the new risks of solar flares? They're really dangerous, right? Like the explosion of the gas in the sun can suddenly reach such a magnitude that the explosion of the gas can actually escape the gravity of the sun enough to reach Earth and create all kinds of havoc, right?
Yeah, it also activates the kryptonite to affect human cells. So I understand, Darwin. It's terrible. Fear porn.
Yeah, it's really the current thing now. They're really hyping it up. So that means that, of course, the sun has to be a giant exploding ball of gas.
Don't be afraid. Be very, very, very afraid.
Okay, so I will go back to Nathan's point. And so I also agree. And in my response, I also said something of the same sort in which I gave him two exhibits. Exhibit A being when a glober says that the sun is 93 million miles away, a flat earther asks, prove it. The glober gives some baseless assertion and the flat earther points it out. This is the first exhibit. The second exhibit is the glober says the sun is 93 million miles away. The flat earther says, no, it is not. The sun is small and local. The glober says, prove it. And the flat earther says something like the spotlight effect or the hotspot effect, whatever the hell that is supposed to mean. So it's a matter of choice, of priority, which way you want to go. But the second exhibit unnecessarily reverses the burden of proof on flat earthers.
Well,
you missed a step.
Arthur,
no. You missed a step. So there's a third step to that. So what the baller then does, so in your example, that was absolutely perfect, by the way, Arthur, perfect. Right? So flat earther says hotspot when we've got the full dichotomy set up, which wasn't necessary. Perfect example. Then the glober says, I can use a flat plane measurement to prove Earth's a sphere in this false dichotomy. And because I'm better at utilizing a flat plane for an angle to the sun to claim its height in orbital motion around a sphere that was derived from a flat plane, I sound far more intelligent when I use a flat plane to prove a sphere. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. Were you listening in, John, when I gave you loads of props in Ballbusters?
I might have missed that part.
I gave you plenty of props in Ballbusters because there was various different points where it got to the stage where this exact scenario happens. But typically, you give a fair example where you're like, no, the flat earth is competent and will offer up a plane measurement, in this case, for height to the sun. Now, that would be a failed example as well because it's going to move throughout the day, changing its angle. Nevertheless, they're giving a flat plane measurement that fails, and the globe earther gives the exact same example off a flat plane but says it proves a globe. So you end up in a false dichotomy with two claimants, one making a claim that's going to fail, that uses a flat plane but fails for whatever reason. In this case, a failed claim because there are hotspots. Okay, we're talking about the height of the sun. You say it's local. You say hotspots is your proof. What say you, Glober? He says, I can measure a flat plane. He listened to all this clever maths, and that proves a sphere. Right, John?
Yeah, that's basically what they've been doing from the beginning with everything. Just about.
As an alternative to the hotspots, a flat earther could just say, yeah, but Aristophanes. And I'm now just going to presuppose a disk instead of a ball. And then the angles to the sun proves it's supposedly 3,000 miles away. I mean, they could just pull a literal Aristophanes to counter the ball version of Aristophanes, and it would reach the same goal. I mean, neither of it would prove an actual location of the sun.
But both would require a flat plane to use the methodology. Aristophanes.
That is true, yes.
Right, well, that's John's point. So when they say we've got a flat Earth proof, and the other opponent says I've got a globe proof, what will actually happen is there'll be two flat Earth proofs stacked up against one another, or in this case, one flat Earth proof being used by a glober to measure angles off a plane to infer orbital motion. The other will be a hotspot over a cloud to infer that it's small and local. Arthur's predominant point is that ain't necessary. They've claimed they've got a height to the sun 93 million miles. You, as Joe Normie flat earther, haven't got any necessity to claim anything. Now, if you want to take their claim and prove that they used a flat earth for their claim, that would be the right thing to do, because you don't have to defend anything. Why would you? Why do you want to claim you've got a height? Why do you care about the height of the sun? Because of the hotspot. Does it make any difference to your life? No. The only reason you're doing it is because the Feast of Nonsense has pre-fed you a meal that made you feel it necessary to regurgitate up that crap in false dichotomy. You don't have to claim what height the sun is. Even if you did know, does it help you prove Earth's flat? Well, with the angle measurement they'll be using, yeah, it does. Focus on that.
What it does is a little bit of counter programming against, like, no, it has to be 93 million miles away, and that's it. It's like a reflex counter programming, but it's technically not proven. The only way it's proven is that, oh, I'm proving a globe based off measuring a flat plane. Well, I'm proving a flat plane measured off a flat plane. I mean,
based on a hotspot.
Really the thing.
Well, with Arthur's example, it's just based on it having a hotspot.
Yeah, but the hotspot is just an illusion, really. I mean, you don't even know what you're looking at there.
Yeah, but there's a subtle nuance you're missing. Yeah, but there's a subtle nuance you're missing. The glober believes the sun is X size and 93 million miles away, but the flat earther believes the sun is X size and 3,000 miles away, because they have a belief. This is what they're doing. They're arguing my belief versus your belief. David Weiss, right? David, hang on.
They have a different presupposition.
Let me finish. Let me finish. David Weiss can claim that he is a flat earth map and show someone the Gleason's projection. And a border can say, Australia is too big. And David Weiss can say, you're just not open-minded enough.
Go on, Arwin.
Yeah, no, it was a good point. I mean, it's just a matter of presupposition. I figured this out in, what was it, 2018 or something, right? Flat Earth presupposition of a disk with the 3,000 miles away and the sun, the 93 million miles away, based off the presupposition of the Earth being a sphere. And that's it. Like, that was the trick. That's the false dichotomy of the Feast of Nonsense versus the globe claim.
Perfect.
Yeah, because people flat earthers feel they need to give answers. My son does it all the time. You can't tell me what it is.
That's exactly what the Feast of Nonsense is for, to prepare you as a flat earther, rather than with overcomes for globe claims that making in the affirmative, to give you an argument for the flat earth that may or may not fail or win. It doesn't matter. As long as you've got an argument to put forward against the positive claim, you're not debunking the positive claim. That's what the Feast of Nonsense is laid out to give everyone from the off. Now, the people who are more popular in this arena are the people who gobble it up and regurgitate it, because they're acceptable in the algorithm, because it serves the ends of the people who want to control the opposition. Give them an argument to put up against our argument. Hopefully it'll fail. And then, even if it doesn't, there's a good chance that the way we've set up the anti-flat earth side of this argument, they're going to be begging the question of the globe and repositioning every argument to beg the question of the globe in every instance. Now, when that happens, you just have somebody who's insistent on begging the question of a globe arguing against someone with a crap argument for a flat earth, and both will utilize the flat plane to measure their examples, but neither will realize. So both are left with a belief, flat earther and globe earther, one being the more dominant in society, globe earther, who can insist that he righteously can beg the question, the other with a fairly crap example of a hotspot for the sun proving that it's local. Like, who cares if it's local? Debunk their claim and show they measured a flat earth. That's it. That's what should happen. But if you regurgitate the feast of nonsense, like Dave Weiss in the recent example, then your average Joe Normie sees all of the pre-sharpened tools for a globe earther to chop that man's head off. That's Dave Weiss. He's going to go, wow, look at all these shiny tools I could chop his head off with. And then you go and chop your head off with them. You don't even know it's being removed while you tell them that they need to wake up and smell the coffee of reality, and you're just not open-minded enough when they don't accept your crap arguments that you've been given by the feast of nonsense. That's why they're designed to fail or be hand-waved. Any last comments?
And that's why I think they're the primary enemy. The feast of nonsense seems to be our true enemy.
Yep.
In that.
Well, if you take David Weiss,
Brian, then Arwin. Brian, then Arwin. Brian, then Arwin, then whoever was in Discord.
Yeah. Roto. If you take David Weiss and his version of what is proof to him, it is not proof. This is what he accepts as proof. And technically, he should have handed over his Bitcoin to a baller a long time ago. Shouldn't he? If he accepts certain things as proof, then like because he just has a belief, then if the baller comes along with that same standard of proof, which is not proof, then technically David Weiss should have handed over his Bitcoin, because they can come up with the same standard of nonsense.
Well, that's why he took a challenge off the table when he had his falling out with Nathan.
Yeah, he didn't want you getting
it. Yeah, but look what happened at the end of that debate. What did he say? The guy wasn't convinced. All he did was shout how you could get his app, because all he wants is the money.
Very quick shout out to Unitox Femu, who says, FE Proof, Giro d'Italia and Tour de France. Thank you for the super chat.
Like, what should have happened there is he should have been put up on stage and somebody go up and debunk his globe. But no, everyone was just shouting at him, telling him to get out. Instead of just holding him to his claim. €1,000, okay, or $1,000, okay. Then he's on camera on stage being a liar because he won't hand over the money.
None of them
but they couldn't do it, Brian.
They went outside and called him a phony and told him to get lost and shunned him. Like we said when we critiqued it, I'd have gone outside and taken the grand off him. Just told him how Earth's measured flat with all examples of a globe Earth, or given him a few examples of where globe Earth is utilizing a flat plane, describe celestial navigation. There's a whole number of things that you could do to go through and go, this is unequivocally proof of measurements of Earth as a flat plane. I want your grand.
Yeah, that's you.
But he wouldn't give you the money anyway.
To do that.
Well, you think he wouldn't give it me with about 5 cameras pointing at him?
No. I'm saying you could pull that off, but then...
Hang on.
Neil wants to rumpus, you just let him.
All right, go on.
Forget it. Go ahead, Brian. I'll speak it.
See, I know how to deal with it.
No,
go ahead, Neil. Just say what you're going to say.
Neil, that. You were right there.
Go on, what did you want to say, Neil?
You could pull that off and get the $1,000.
We heard that
They're not equipped to do that.
We got that the first time.
My critique is you didn't listen to me what I said. The reason he wanted to go outside was to get away from cameras. And he was never going to hand over that money. That's why he should have been put up on stage and someone go up and prove that it's not a globe. That's what should have happened. Instead of everyone shouting at him and telling him to get out. He wanted to go outside. And then, well, no matter what argument you present to him personally, The only way to get the money out of them after that would be to physically take it off. You know what I mean?
That guy, they had how many hours with that dude prior
Too
to
many.
that? How many hours did Dave Weiss spend talking to him? But why hadn't he proved it by then?
Yeah, because Dave Weiss is selling his app. He's selling himself. He don't care.
He's selling a belief and an app. That's what he's selling. And his app
Exactly.
supports his belief, but doesn't support reality and what reality really is, the Earth's reality. What's really going on there is the reason David Weiss didn't sell it to him is not just that David Weiss can't sell it, it's that why does David Weiss give people like that this kind of time? Why does he do that? What's the reason for him giving people like that this kind of time? He didn't sell it to him because he has nothing to sell. He only has a belief to sell. And if the person has a belief that they're happy with, they'll stick with the belief they're
That's
happy
correct. Yeah, Adam, you there? Go on, Alvin.
Hold up.
I just want
Hey, Adam.
to see David Weiss, like, I would like to see the new app version where the map that he uses actually has a scale consistency throughout. I want his app with the map that is actually perfectly consistent in scale, and
you
then
mean-
I'll get the app.
You mean you want his app with maps in it to have a practical application beyond finding friends on it?
Yeah.
I see.
I want it to be a real representation of the realm and not just a flunky idea based on math and presupposition.
Okay, let's just put it this way. Which is better? If I tell you the idea that there's a whole bunch of quite large wild animals out in this forest, and the problem is that number one, they're killing the smaller animals for food, and number two, they're leaving quite ginormous scat or poop around the forest where people have trails. So they're leaving giant craps on the trails, and it's a bit of a problem. And obviously the smaller animals that the people do actually hunt, to be fair, are being killed off by these larger, massive animals that are in the forest. Okay, that's the problem. Which is better? That or Bigfoot roams the forest? Which sounds more saleable?
Oh, Bigfoot, absolutely.
Okay. What are we selling?
Bigfoot.
I'm sorry, what the hell kind of analogy is that?
Well, so the fantastical imaginations of people that spot a creature in the woods and say it's Bigfoot, they're more likely to generate the fascination and interest of fantasists worldwide, is what you're saying. It's a simple example to get a simple yes out of you. Yes is the answer I'm looking for, so I can move on. Okay, what are we selling? Are we selling metaphorically the shit in the forest, or are we selling the fantasy of ether? Which one are we selling?
We're selling the fact that it's the bear that made the scat.
The bear made the shit.
Depends on what you think of it. I don't think of it as selling shit. You may think of it as selling shit. We're pushing reality.
I think you needed to listen to Neil.
Okay.
We're showing and proving that a bear made that scat. They're saying a Bigfoot did it. They're selling more because they're selling fantasy. We're showing reality. No, it's just a bear.
Bear's not very sexy though.
Yeah, everyone knows about bears.
What about if the bear? What about if the bear was only there because he was a genetically modified bear produced by Tesla, holding the secret to free energy? Does that sound better?
You mean polar bears?
Well, hold on,
brother.
What do you mean, oh, brother?
brother.
You're just a denier of the free energy. I can hear it in your voice, QE.
You mean
Back to
polar bears? Why do you think they're in the north, right? Because the
back to
closer they
David
get to
Weiss.
Mount Meru, the more they start to amplify the magnetic field of the Earth.
Yeah, wasting your time, QB.
QE.
Back to the David Weiss thing before you jump in here, John. This is absolutely crazy. It's ironic you mentioned him. I woke up this morning punching my bed. It was David Weiss's face.
You have David Weiss's face on your bed sheets?
You sound like you make great. Was he a tender lover?
No, it was a weird dream. It had nothing to do with flat Earth or anything. He was there. It was really twisted. I was punching him in the face, and it woke me up, and I was punching my bed.
Yeah, not surprised.
Seek help.
He exerts that kind of response.
I've never had that happen. And you guys mentioning him today I couldn't. It's weird.
Well, you know, that's a very interesting and poignant example, because that's pain that you're experiencing. The frustration of this is...
No, that's bullshit. I don't have any ill will towards David Weiss. I hardly even, take him into account for anything. It was just a one-off thing. Dream. Don't try to friggin' pull that psycho bullshit
I'm
on.
trying to psychoanalyze you. I was trying to draw a comparison that you might have had that thought once because we have spoken negatively about Dave, and therefore you've woken up punching your pillow and thinking it's his face. Fine. I'm saying that when we say to our opponent, share your pain, while that's a one-off thing for you in this example, because that's a frustration for you, the unovercomable frustration that is flat Earth for our opponents is the same. That, when I say pain, is what I mean. When I say share your pain, that's how that manifests. Now, you might not like me saying, don't psychoanalyze me. Well, no, it frustrates you. David Weiss frustrates you, and that's what, that's manifested quite physically in that form that you've now divulged to us, and we will shame you for forever.
David, it doesn't. Like I said, I don't have any. I don't have any ill will towards the man. I hardly ever think about him. Only when you guys bring him up and I see him here and there. You guys usually chase after Weiss. Now, if it was that treasonous, if it was a treasonous, treacherous traitor or shits at 20, I would have said, okay, I got it. But this one was just, it has no point.
Maybe, just maybe, instead of us saying that what we have to offer is shit, we could flip it around and say that we have childlike wonder. Well, no, what? We have the one childlike wonder to offer, because there's all these things that you thought you knew, but you didn't.
I've just looked it up. It does actually have a meaning. It means you're gay.
No, let me just make this clear. We're not saying we're selling shit. We're selling the actual cause of the shit, which is a bear.
No, Bigfoot, much more sexy. You finally got my analogy. You're on point now, Brian. We're on to one. It's beautiful.
And Kiwi, if I woke up punching the pillow because I thought it was David Weiss I was punching, I wake up with a smile.
It wasn't the pillow, it was the bed.
Whichever. It's not. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, yeah. Because I don't hold any goodwill towards him. He's a fraud. And frauds.
That's what Adam did on Saturday.
What about Adam? What he did on Saturday? I'm talking about David Weiss. He's a fraud. The man is a fraud. The man is trying to take apart all the good work that's been done. He's disrespecting it and taking it apart. He's trying to set an app on rubbish.
Than that. Hold on. Let's not get too extreme.
Don't hold any goodwill towards him.
That's well too extreme. No. What he's done is realised how he can market shit. He's learned how to polish a dog turd. And the fantasy aspect of the shit in the woods being Bigfoot is what he has done. Now, you can say that he's trying to destroy all the good work. No. He's seen a marketable angle of the fantasist approach to flat Earth, which is the belief in flat Earth. Now, it'd be no different to the belief in Bigfoot or the belief in extraterrestrials or the undead or all of the things that other charlatans put out there. The only difference being there's a parallel with his equivalent to Bigfoot with flat Earth when you can prove it's flat, which is what we do. Therefore, we're going to lose sleep over that to a certain extent. He's turning the very real problem of the scat on the path that's going to soil the shoe of the tracker versus the fantasist that comes along that gets a load of tourists there to see Bigfoot. That's a problem for the guy who's just trying to sort this problem out when they've released a whole bunch of bears into the woods and they're causing problems. Get lost with these stupid cameras trying to catch Bigfoot. You're going to get mauled by a bear. and I'll have to clear up the bloody mess.
Well, see, the problem is that David Weiss has a belief. He believes the earth is flat. That's the problem. And he's pushing his belief to a bigger audience than we can reach. And he's not respecting the good work that's been done. And he's making money through an app. I don't care if someone's making money, but I do care about someone making money off of fraud, Nathan. And he's destroying and not respecting other people's good work. Right? I don't care, Nathan. It's wrong. The guy is wrong. He shouldn't be doing what he's doing. I'm not going to say I hold ill will towards him, but I don't hold any goodwill towards him. I view him as an enemy. Yeah, I view him as an enemy, and that's that.
I called today's show, live show, an unstoppable force without a container. And I put a picture of Superman in front of Kryptonite.
Or Bears versus Bigfoot.
That's the after show. Yeah, the fantasist coin is obviously far more profitable. People who are being sold a narrative of fantasy in flat Earth like it. That's going to attract more people than just the mundane. It was always flat. That's how it's actually measured and navigated, even if you think you're on a ball. You can't sex that up very easily. It's difficult enough to get people to understand it, let alone dress it up in free energy and Tesla.
But David Weiss can go all the way to Oktoberfest, but he can't join this show after Austin supposedly asking him or telling him to do so and have the conversation. He can tell you about his boat and go to Oktoberfest and make an idiot out of himself and flat earthers in general. But he can't join this show.
He would never join this show, Brian.
But that's the thing. He's able to do all these other things, but he's not able to do that. But he's not stupid, Nathan. He's able to come up with an app. So he's not stupid. Stupid people don't come up with apps. He may not be a genius, but he's not stupid.
Would you get in a ring with Mike Tyson, or would you continue beating up little kids?
But it's not about getting into a ring. Well, he's not getting into a ring with anyone here. It's just coming here and having the conversation about reality, about what can and cannot be proven.
He's cornering the market that this has been pitched to. Flat Earth has been pitched to conspiratards. So the majority of people who know about Flat Earth that may attend something like Flattoberfest or buy a Flat Earth app, it's shocking. This is going to seem shocking to you all. They're conspiratards. The majority of the people around us are numpties. That's just a fact. Now, that's not our fault, having found out the reality of our world. It's the fault of the way the controlled opposition fed the information into society in the first place. Well, where did they feed the information into society? Via 1,000,001 conspiratard channels. So that, shockingly, conspiratards picked up on it. That's why when I arrived here, you got bloody clone centres and Mandela. Man, what the hell? Where the hell have I arrived? Can't do anything about it. He's just cornering that market. And that market only exists because the controlled opposition is what's created that market. Now, we don't really want that market. I want, and I've said this on like 2 years ago when we started covering videos more heavily, I want the mainstream. When we were talking about the 2 different boats that you could rock, or Nathan rocks the boat, talking about how Jaron doesn't like my claims of scientific proof, or the tiny little boat in the tiny little pond on top of a massive, enormous ocean liner that's got an aircraft carrier on it. That massive boat, that ain't being rocked though, is it? Why? Because we're too busy dealing with the controlled opposition market that's been developed that Dave's profiting from, and concerning ourselves with how he's profiting off the conspiratard market this information's been fed into, and concerning ourselves how we should be putting out better arguments to these conspiratards. They're not our market. Our market is Neil deGrasse Tyson's market. He's not fighting us, though, is he? We're too busy fighting Jaron and Dave. Just how it should be. Let them fight amongst themselves. That's how you lead the opposition to do exactly that. And that's what we're tied up in. Why are we concerned ourselves with why Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't coming to this show? No, we're concerned with why Dave isn't coming. Give a crap. Bigger picture's been lost. Controlled opposition's mad at its way. And now we're fighting amongst ourselves in this tiny little shitty pond. Was the anti-flat earthers, now it's the flat earthers. Who cares? So long as they're fighting in their own little pond, it doesn't matter if they're fighting with Reds or Jaren. Same piss, different bottle, different day, same pond.
Hold on. Hold on. We
Breaking up, Neil.
Yeah, that was why I was saying they've turned themselves into our enemy because of that. We shouldn't have it to be dealing with them, but they've claimed an authority in this subject. They have, like you said, their market of conspiratards who, whether we like it or not, we've been put into the same boat with, and because they don't have any arguments to make or give, it makes what we're doing seem like a waste of time.
Or we're just censored. We're just kept away from the conspiratards and the mainstream. On the other hand, the people who do make their way here, just to put some positive light on this, are eternally grateful. I get endless reams of messages from all different platforms with people expressing their gratitude. Happened today in the super chat. People get to see it spills over into financial success for me. And because of the potency of what we offer, that is enough to keep me ticking over in a living. With a tiny little channel, I've managed to eke out a living purely because of the potency of the information we offer. Now, while I might have played devil's advocate on Bullbusters and Adam saying, well, you'd be a shithouse if you were concealing this information or twisting it in a way to withhold it, or worse still, offering up false information and putting that behind a paywall whilst silencing your opponent that can prove you wrong, those sorts of things, then no one would want to support you. And I thoroughly agree. Because we're pretty much straight down the line, no nonsense talking, we'll critique each other if we think we're talking nonsense. People value that highly and are prepared to hand me money for it, which I am eternally grateful for. But if you dilute the potency or try and take the potency and bottle it and stick it behind a cupboard with a big price tag on it, people will just find the information elsewhere. They might not find it as easily, but it doesn't mean that the people who do come here and value that, because it does have value, will show their gratitude through financial means, and they do. But they're not going to do that if we suddenly sacrifice our values for the sake of profit. Now, in a conspiratard, numpty realm, that will get you success. And in many ways, more power to you, Dave. If you can commercialise the numpties that have been brought to you by a controlled opposition outlet of information in regards to Flat Earth, then, well, good for you. I mean, personally, I don't want those numpties. I can remember various of the YouTubers in my YouTube Flat Earth career saying the same thing, and it made no sense at the time. Why would you say you don't want that as an audience? Well, in this instance, I'm saying it. You know, well, how does that make sense with a YouTube hat on? Well, it's because those people don't recognise the potency and therefore won't value it. So why do I want them? Just going to make up the numbers. What's that going to do? Offer me 2 cents if they watch 100 ads? Oh, it's not really worth much to me. From a YouTube point of view, I've still got the same hat on. So therefore, what is it worth? Nothing. Where's the value? In the people that recognise the potency? They directly financially help you. They give you PayPal contributions that you can actually put in your bank and spend. You're like, oh, yeah. What are they valuing? The quality of the information. And they point out that that's why they're giving you the money or thanking you. Regardless, why change? That isn't Dave's audience, though, is it? He's not appealing to those people. He's appealing to the fantasist that wants the free energy, that wants the Tesla story, that wants the Antiquitech. It's the same audience. They're not our audience.
Yeah, it is a different audience from us, because you will find people that listen to this show more than likely don't listen to any of their shows unless they're looking for something for us to review or something like that. They don't take their show serious.
Right.
Would David Weiss put the Bitcoin up, he was putting up for proof proof of a globe. Would he put it up there as support for proof of Ether?
Well, I would like for him to put that proof back up there without Nathan to defend it. That's what I want.
Well, he won't do that because Nathan is not going to. He doesn't have Nathan now. But would he put it up there? And if someone can disprove Ether, they get the Bitcoin. Would he do that?
Well, see, I like the globe one because he has to accept the downward bias. And if you accept the downward bias, I got you.
Yeah. But my point being, I would prefer he did what you are saying, right? Don't get me wrong. But my point being is that if he's so confident about Ether and he's going to be pushing this absolute manure to the public, right, and calling himself a flat earther, and in the eyes of the average everyday person, he represents us, then will he put his Bitcoin up for anyone who debunks the existence of that? Or not the existence of it, but for him, if he can't prove the existence of it, then the person gets the Bitcoin.
Yeah, again, why? This whole appeal, based on what I've just said, I've just digested what I've just said. These aren't our people, are they?
In the eyes of the public,
I was wanting 3 Bitcoin. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I was going to get that Bitcoin.
Yeah, me too. I mean, from a financial perspective, you just like when the guys are, I've got $1,000, you're like, I need $1,000. And I can satisfy that criteria. Yeah, I like that $1,000. But in a realistic, no, Dave Weiss is probably not going to give you 2 Bitcoin. And he's took it off the table anyway. And was never going to be in a contradictory position when he's having to defend the globe claim, but also simultaneously prop up his mates for Ether. That's why it was presumably passed off onto me.
Yeah, and now you're out of the equation. I'd like to see how that goes.
Anyway, I don't care, is my point. Why? What's it going to achieve? Yeah, okay, I get beyond the point of where we might financially gain from one of these people. Well, if we're talking about controlled opposition and how detrimental that is, and how when controlled opposition get a hold of a whole group of people who think they're doing the greater good for flat Earth, and they're stacked up in a nice little false dichotomy that leaves the audience in no doubt that Earth's probably still a sphere, yeah, then they're only aiding the problem. And they're aiding the problem with the benefit of the momentum they've gained and the crowd that they've gained. But as I keep saying, that isn't our crowd. When they get here and we say, I don't know how far the sun is, they're just going to moan at me. I'm not going to accept it, and they're not going to have wider eyes and a gleeful expression on their face because of the possibility of finding out once they've accepted they don't know. They're going to push for answers that they wanted that were given to them by fantasists previously if they came here. I'm not going to suddenly change that type of person from being that type of person. Wild, speculative conspiracy theorists. The reason we are tarred with the brush of conspiracy is because the way that the group has been built up is off the back of conspiracy. That's why they all talk about 9/11 and chemtrails and vaccines and all sorts of other conspiratorial subjects. Some of them make it mainstream, some of them don't. But that is the foundation of your average flat Earth belief. Or average flat earther and his flat Earth belief, or her belief. Not foundational in measurements, proof, science. That's not your average flat earther. We are so far outside of the circle, it's untrue. So to say, you should be doing a better job in that circle for that circle we're not part of and would never want us to be, because we'll never give them what they want. So somehow we need to divorce ourselves from it. Now, Bev has perhaps tried to do this with different motivations, and in the same way as in the pre-show, it's like, you want to call me a Christian? Yeah, all right, if you want to call me a Christian. Anthony had a similar attitude yesterday when he was asked by a friend if he's a flat earther. He's like, oh, if you want to call me a flat earther, call me what you like. I'm a realist. There's no proof for a sphere. It's all bunk. We have a flat earth with it. But you know what I'm getting at? Call me what you like. I don't care. But these people want to be flat earthers. And flat earth's about, have you heard about 9/11? Where did you stand on 9/11?
Not really. I can't stand with that. I'm a flat Earth knower. I know the best description of the Earth is flat. I know that's a description that nobody can say is wrong or show to be wrong. I know
Yeah,
that.
but that was an interesting take that Nathan had that I hadn't thought about. That is obvious, right? With the conspiratards, that we're separated, right? So
Yeah.
we're so far beyond that. So I liked your take on that. Very well articulated.
What Nathan's after doing is he's after hijacking my point about belief, and he's turned it into his own little argument. And now he's going to go forward and get all the kudos.
I want $3,000 or 3 Bitcoin. That was my whole argument. I don't know about all that other stuff.
I want
I
$1,000
want
from that
reception.
Oliveria guy, even though I'm not in his country or was at his meeting or had the offer put to me in person at the time that it was filmed. But I still want that $1,000.
No, I want the 3 Bitcoin that he offered to everyone, not a specific place. I wasn't there at the conference or whatever that was, but the Bitcoin was put out to everybody, wasn't it?
It's off the table, John.
I know, and it's upsetting to me. That's my whole point.
Well,
Thanks for the robot, Neil.
are you going to say something, QE?
Other than thanks for the robot.
I think he was about to credit you for this whole conversation being basically yours, Brian.
I doubt that.
I was going to add a little. I was going to add a little something, but it would be slightly off topic. But go on, Brian.
About a compound bow.
No. You go ahead, QE. You go ahead. Well, what I was going to say, it can wait. It can wait. No big deal.
No, it's good. It's going to be slightly off topic. So if you got something on topic to say, go ahead.
I have, but it's a bit controversial. What about bringing David Weiss to court for false advertising or for false representation? Because he's in the public eye, he's representing me, but he's not representing me. You know, what's my stance there? How dare you? You're not representing me, David Weiss, with your rubbish in your beliefs. You know, what does he claim concerning his app? Does he claim proof? How many things does he claim proof for on that? He's supposed to be representing me. He's supposed to be within the same arena and community as I'm in.
Which courtroom are you going to?
That's the problem. I'd say he's got better lawyers than I can afford.
Yeah, but you both lack a courtroom.
Yeah, we do.
Yep. Can I bring my slightly off-topic subject up?
The sooner the better.
Nathan, did you get a chance to listen to Professor Parks call out your integrity? The weird part of that show that we didn't go over yet.
He called you a liar.
He's getting coffee.
Oh, the silent treatment, huh? You trying to stonewall us?
Yeah, while getting coffee.
He's shocked into silence, is what it is.
Sorry, were you asking me while I was getting coffee subtly?
Yeah. Remember I brought up the point it was on the video with Shitza 20 and Professor Rob Parks that I didn't review it, the whole thing, because it was so long, right? I just gave you the part that was timestamped with gravity and stuff. But after that, on Friday, I went ahead and listened to the rest of it. And just right out of the blue, your name came up. And it was in the context of I think that treasonous writer brought up the subject of well, Professor Parks, you know, it's us as flat earthers. Do you think that we're lying? Do you think that we don't believe what we're saying? It was in that sort of vein. And I said, oh, where is this going to go? And all of a sudden, your name came up right out of the blue by Professor Parks, not by that treasonous, treacherous traitor, but by Professor Parks. Did you get a chance to listen to it? If you hadn't, I time-stamped it and I sent it to your Skype PM.
I remember you telling me that in Ballbusters, and I said, yes, I will listen to that when I get a chance. I haven't had a chance. I'm sorry. But thank you for sending me timestamps. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, just being over the target, you said at the time you thought it was contrived. I mean, if he's been listening to the show and hates my assertions I make in a very positive manner, therefore I've got under his skin. Share your pain is all that is, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, but you had no contact with him. We have never done. I've done a treatment of him for 15 hours, but you haven't. You haven't. There's been no interaction. You didn't even know who he was.
Does that matter?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why does that matter?
It seems.
Because he.
Go ahead, bro.
Okay, wait, go on. Go on.
It's kind of arbitrary to me. I mean, why you?
Right, if you've watched the show and you find yourself feeling disdain towards me, you're going to air that. People get the wrong idea. It's like further down the food chain of ignorance or dumbed down stupidity, you get people that feel like they've got a connection to a character in a soap opera.
So you're assuming he's watched your show but decided to go on Darwinism?
Well, why else? Why else? He's mentioning me.
Well,
he must have seen the show. He can't not know who I am and then moan about how, what did he say? I don't have integrity. Is that what he's driving at?
It sounds like a he said, she said. That's what it sounds like.
It sounds contrived to me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got that the first time. You said it's contrived, which is to say, potentially they've got together before and make sure you mention that Nathan's not trustworthy. Well, maybe, but I would say more likely he's just watched the show and goes, I don't like this. Saying that Earth's measured flat when they use a flat plane. Definitely lying. I want to express that.
I don't know. So ironic that Nathan Bad guy, Nathan Bad on the treasonous, treacherous traitors show. I thought it kind of strange. Is there anything behind it?
Okay,
maybe not.
What I would point out.
There was a different guy 12, 18 months ago that went on, and there was a whole panel of them with their open discussion where they are constantly, well, we'll have to agree to disagree on that. He brought me up, and I had absolutely no interaction with him. I don't know who he was, but he suddenly brought me up and got shut down by Dave Weiss. Remember?
No.
Oh, okay, fine.
I do. But hold on. The reason that you may have been brought up in that context is we're not assuming this is the first time they've spoken. I mean, we've been invited to come on Jeranism's debatism or whatever, and I've been having a back and forth with him now for how long just to try to set this up. So this isn't their first interaction with him by far. So the things they discuss in the debate, or what they call a debate, has been discussed prior.
Well, what I would say, Nathan, is that it is possible that Professor Rob Parks just called you out as being lacking in integrity simply because it's because of you in this show, and obviously then QE show on top of that, then it comes off of this show, because this show was first. It's because of that they have to make you out to be dishonest or a liar or whatever. Because as I said to Tinfoil Hat Man, you're either right or you're a liar. And if you're right, it means they're wrong. So you're either a liar or you're right. And they go with lawyer every time. So he has to character assassinate you for whoever is listening, including any flat earth believers that are out there listening. But the thing about it is, what I would take away from it, if you listen to it, was that neither Austin or Jaron said that you weren't. None of them said, well, I might disagree with that. I don't agree with Nathan, but he does have integrity. None of them said that. They didn't say you didn't have, but they didn't They didn't try and back you up in any way. They just went, okay.
That's not surprising. That part wasn't surprising. Here's the part that's surprising to me, is that arbitrarily your name popped up, but no one else's did. And then in the entire community, nobody else, save for you.
Some ace.
That's the issue.
Some ace.
Hollow?
Yeah. So scared. No. Was there that comment about, the genuineness of Nathan from that professor?
Yeah, it's integrity. Yes.
Integrity. You got integrity. He's scared, man. Why else would you do that? Unless you need to poison the well before you meet him. You're scared because you've heard the arguments. They're a million times better than the shit you have to tolerate on that show, aren't it?
Yep. I wouldn't go on Nathan's show because he's just dishonest.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't go on there because, I've got to make a reason up because I know the standards over there are the things that I purport to have with my PhD. But as I've just demonstrated, I'm not going to live up to those standards. So there's no way I'm going on Nathan's show where a mirror will be held up to the bullshit pseudoscience I'm peddling. Just a summary.
Oh,
Exactly, Adam.
Yeah,
that's another twist. Does it roll out the first option?
That it's contrived.
No, because he'd go along with it anyway. Even if they spoke about it beforehand, I reckon that, like I've seen with many ballers, they will just attack Nathan, even though I know they've never been on this show. I mean, so
yeah, that's where I was.
He would go along with it, even if it wasn't contrived. He would say that.
Exactly, that's what I was going with, and where at the beginning of the show, Neil is insisting. Now they know about this show. Now they watch this show. It's not some little corner of the pond. Well, okay, well, fine. But if that logic's to be inferred, then he's got a gripe because he's seen the standard that's here and wants to poison the well and justify his presence on a show that's easier to get around in terms of discussion points.
Well, you're either right or you're a lawyer. That's the problem they have. And they have to go with lawyer because otherwise they're admitting that they're wrong by saying you're right.
Maybe, but time will tell in that regard. And as I said earlier, I wash my hands of that audience now. If you went to a Tartaria convention next week, there'd be a fairly substantial overlap with the people who are at Flattoberfest, wouldn't there?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, there's going to be ether talk. There's going to be all of that. Of course.
Right. Well, if you detach that community from our community, us, not Flat Earth, us specifically, right? Would you say that there are any parallels or useful audience members who are going to buy that garbage that we could help? Or do you think they'd come along and say, well, how do you explain this church's fireplace? Surely they had electricity pumping through it. You go, you're a retard. Why am I even talking to you? There is nothing in this conversation that is going to benefit you or me ever. Do I want that audience member? Will that audience member benefit me? No.
They got their own struggles to work through before they could get to our level.
I don't care about rebadging what we do. I don't care. I'll continue to call it Flat Earth. But in terms of my general disposition towards your average Flat Earther, it's very negative because they're conspiratards. Now, that's not the fault of Flat Earth, is it? It's not our fault for finding out Earth is flat. It's the fault of the controlled narrative that has intentionally put out the information, because it's true, to the most conspiratorial ears that they can put it in front of. So that when it gets regurgitated, people can laugh at the people who regurgitate it. Watch the coverage of Flattoberfest. Look at the people who are there. If you're hearing this and going, what's wrong with me and my dreadlocks and tattoos and me looking like a tramp?
And open-toed sandals.
Open-toed sandals and bad breath. What's wrong with that? Yeah, there's a lot wrong with that. I don't want you as a watcher because you don't really have much to offer me as a videographer. Yeah? You're not going to understand the points I make. You're not here to find out truth. You're here because you're a fantasist, if you're that type of person. Now, I intentionally label the videos as educational. I can't talk about 9/11 conspiracy if I'm going to call this channel educational. Now, educational it is, but that audience, they don't want education. They want fantasy. They want people to believe that they're really open-minded. That's it. Well, that's not my audience.
Yeah, they showed that their number one argument against just one bowler was you're not open-minded. What does open-minded have got to do? What does open-mindedness have got to do with actual measurement?
Yeah.
You don't need to be open-minded to accept that the piece of wood you measured was the piece of wood was straight and you measured it at a certain length. That doesn't require an open mind.
You know what does, though?
It's relevant to the psychology issues that surround flat Earth and the counter-programming to that, but it doesn't to the actual technical arguments, which are, of course, on flat Earth's side.
But it does require you to be open-minded, Brian.
Thing.
What does require you to be open-minded, Brian, is having belief.
Of course, Nathan, belief in Bigfoot and ether and all this other stuff. Belief is fine, but you got to leave it, as a YouTube video that you enjoyed as entertainment and let it go at that. Don't walk out your front door expecting your belief to be what you meet.
You know what? If you were a little bit more open-minded, you'd be able to move forward with an idea, a concept, and a worldview without any proof. What's your problems?
Exactly.
Well,
but the open-mindedness is not about belief. This is nonsense. This is not true. This is not just because that happens with the people that do that doesn't mean that that's what it even means.
No,
open-minded is specifically meant like, hey, you're able to resist or bypass the original conditioning against it. That's the open-mindedness that they want to attract. Unfortunately, when you're that open-minded, then you're also inclined to like, oh, I'll figure this out, I'll figure that out, and get into the ether and the Tartaria and everything. So
yeah, it's not open-minded, is it? It's will you tolerate me whilst I chat shit? That's what they're asking for. Somebody who'll sit there, nod along while you say unsubstantiated things and not disagree with you. That's somebody that's open-minded.
Is that what they say open-minded is?
No, that's what they're asking. Yeah, when you're called you're not open-minded, what they actually want is someone who'll sit there, nod when somebody says ether, and not have an issue with no evidence to support stuff. That's what they mean when they want you to be open-minded, which is non-challenging, just accepting of what they say to you.
Well, that's a double-think definition because open-minded would be open to inquiry and to scrutiny.
Owen, over the head. Yeah, I'm making the point against them. They're not actually after open-minded, because open-minded would mean they would have to realise the similar position to us. When they say that, they're asking for somebody that won't challenge their position, won't question their position, ask for evidence of their position.
Right, so it's the Marxist version, open-minded. It's the opposite. Just shut up and listen to us and don't question it.
Yes,
open-minded.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, that comes a point I was wanting to ask, because belief is acceptance without evidence is what I've heard it described as. What is belief with contradictory evidence?
Fanatical religious zealotry.
Yeah, delusion.
Yeah.
I like yours better, QA.
And their audience seek that out, don't they?
They do.
It does seem to be. They do seem to seek out delusion and fanatic religious zealotry. Yes, that is interesting.
I don't want them. So why are we appealing for Dave to learn our arguments better? Whoever it was originally, it's like you're wasting your time with Jaron, you're wasting your time with Dave. Why do you want to convince them to have better arguments? Now I agree. Like, what's the point?
What?
Who are they going to appeal to? Conspiratards? If they have some finality in their claims, they'll lose interest in Dave. Maybe that's the reason why he doesn't want to give him some finality to prove it's flat. As long as there's always the maybe it isn't, they need to constantly fulfill the I'm not quite sure it is flat. I need to go and watch another couple of flat Earth videos on Dave's app.
Well, now you're catching up. Well, it's a situation of we need to make a clear definition between the flat believers and the flat knowers. Because I'm on the flat knower side. I don't have beliefs about the earth. I have knowings and not knowings. I know certain things. I don't know other things. Whereas a believer can believe anything. So flat believers and flat knowers, there needs to be a dividing line made there. And people make a decision then which side they're on. If you're out there listening to this, which side are you on? Are you a flat knower or are you a flat believer who has an open mind, who's open-minded? In other words, as Adam said, according to their implication of open-minded, that means accepting things without evidence. Just sitting there and accepting it without ever giving any, just accepting it without any argument. Because once you make an argument, they shout at you and throw you out of the conference. Once you give any feedback, you know, even if you're a guy who's only messing around, it doesn't matter. That's what you get. You know what I mean? Like, you're going against our belief, throw him out. Throw that person out. He's not with our belief. I'm not a flat out believer. I'm a flat out knower. I know how to correctly describe the earth.
Amen, brother.
Well, you know this thing, and I've always hated it. When I was young, right, people would say, I often heard it through media, and I've heard people say it, but it came out in media. It's like, oh, just smoke some weed, open your mind. You know, this kind of absolute nonsense. And what happens to you people when they smoke weed? They sit there and they're brain dead. Do you know what I mean? Is that opening your mind, or is that making you brain dead? It's not exactly opening your mind.
It all depends on how you're gonna do. Look, I've been smoking. Like,
hey, let's not get into this conversation. Stop. Right, I want to change the subject just because I don't want to get demonetized.
It all depends on how you're gonna be doing that. If it's like, just take something to lighten you up.
You won't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm saying don't. You're just going to carry on anyway. I don't want to talk about recreational drug use. I don't want to tick that box. No, thank you.
I'm sorry. I didn't either. I was making the point that that's also a falsehood. Just making the point that that's all. That type of thing is this. What is open-mindedness? Is it recreational use of whatever? Is it accepting things without evidence? Without pushback? What is open-mindedness? It seems to be a term that's been hijacked.
Well, what it actually is the ability to just hear something out without pushing it away or talking over, like hearing somebody out. That's pretty much open-mindedness, really.
In Aristotle's words, it is the sign of an intelligent mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. That's open-mindedness, to be able to entertain a thought without actually accepting it yourself.
Right.
Yeah, your mind is not open enough. You're not open-minded enough. You know what I mean? That's the proof for flat earth believers. You're not believing hard enough. That's what's wrong with you. Arthur, you're not believing hard enough. You need to believe harder. Open your mind.
Well,
don't push it away.
The right way to use the word open mind. So.
I've got another corny one. You should not be so open-minded that your mind falls off. It's really corny. I'm sorry about
that. Falls out, yeah. You're so open-minded, your brain falls out.
Yeah, but in that context, when you say open mind, it actually means gullible and not open mind.
Yeah, but that's what they want you to be. What does David Weiss need you to be to get interested in going to Flattoberfest and whatever else and buying these apps? Gullible. That's what you need to be. You need to be gullible. Believing nonsense. That's what that means. When David Weiss uses open-mindedness, that means you be gullible and buy my app. You know, like pump a load of rubbish at you.
That's one way around. And then the other way around, when you criticise them and they're on their own chat, you get, oh, we're not allowed to talk about this. We're not allowed to explore. As if this exploration was providing something. This is the point. It's part of the grift, guys. Yeah?
Yes, Adam.
Part of the long con. See, because you're just an unreasonable person if you don't stand around masturbating over theoretical stuff you've got no evidence for. If you don't do that, you're closed-minded, you're narrow.
Yeah, you're restricting the conversation from happening. You're not allowing them to have the conversation.
Would you guys mind if I bring the conversation back to the point of the sun, the distance to the sun? I have a few other questions.
Once you're open-minded.
Feel free.
So even at that time, I noticed that John QE was trying to say something to my example, but he wasn't able to, and he never got the chance again. He must have forgotten by now. At any rate, so the guy who was claiming not actual distance or size, but only relative based on that hotspot effect or the crepuscular rays. So basically, he was saying that we can for sure say that the source of light is smaller than the surface on which the light is falling. Right. So that was his main argument. And he also put it. He also put it in the form of the modus tollens. And there is a big hole in the premise because he put it in the form of if the sun is far away. He did not actually put a number to it. He just said if the sun is far away, then we should be seeing uniform distribution of light all across the surface or the horizon when you see crepuscular rays at the horizon. And even if we are to ignore this big hole in his premise that he did not put a number to it, and let's just pretend that he is talking from the side of globe earthers, just like we have the black swan argument. He's trying to put another argument that if the sun is 93 million miles away, then we are going to have a uniform distribution of light all across the horizon, the same point. So if we put it in this structure, is there still something that can be pointed out being wrong with this argument?
Yes. You can say to them, it's faulty logic, it's fearing the consequent, yeah? And more importantly, if I'm a baller, I'd say no. Because the reason, if we have an atmosphere that lenses the strong light from the sun, so as it comes down, then we'll get a hot spot in certain parts of the Earth when it's a ball because of the lensing of the atmosphere. That's got as much support and validity as, well, if we get a hot spot, sun's close to local. There's nothing there. What, the behavior of this thing that doesn't even have a position, you're making positive statements about how you'll see its reflection as to what that means with regards to its locality and physicality. No, I can make just as much shit up for a ball and it'd be just as valid.
Very, very nice. I love you, Adam. You're so eloquent.
So do I.
Oh, yeah, we all love that.
Get in line, QE.
Yeah, Arthur said it first, but I love him the most.
Especially
first,
QE.
Okay.
I love Brian.
Thank
yeah,
you.
we know.
Earlier on, Paul sent me, I was talking to him about something, he sent me this thing. There's some argument the ballers, listen to this nonsense, the ballers are coming out with, right? This is in a direct avoidance of what I point out concerning Statuette Miles. And Bev points it out. Bev points this out. He's been pointing out for ages about Statuette Miles. But I pointed out concerning the origin of how they determined what 1 degree was in Earth distance, right? How they got to 16 nautical miles. they had to start with 69.04 statute miles, which is a horizontal measurement. That's 69.04 horizontal measurements all meeting end to end, right? The ballers have this new argument. How can flat earthers deal with the fact that the vertex for the measurement of longitude is at the poles? So they, like, which is a complete antithesis to what the actual claim is concerning their globe, because that's not the claim, but of the measurement of the globe has to go along with the claim that the measurement happened when somebody moved south away from Polaris and it appeared to drop, right? They have to go along with that, because they're claiming that the reason that it appears to drop is because there is an earth bulge in the way, right? And the earth bulge increases as you go closer to the equator, right? But they're trying to place the vertex of the angle, which would be the elevation angle, right, at the GP point of Polaris, and put the GP right point somewhere else. That's just stupid, yeah. And they think this is a good argument. Supposedly, according to Paul, it's going around on Discord and I don't know where else, people's videos on YouTube. How stupid is that? That they're actually going completely against the elevation angle and trying to place the vertex at the poles of their model, of their paradigm.
So I was also thinking about something similar, because in his argument he mentions the horizon, and apparently he's presenting a flat earth proof that if the sun is certain distance far away, then we are not going to see what we actually see. Since we actually see it, for modest tolerance basically, then the sun cannot be so far away. He's trying to put it in that argument while taking reference of the horizon. So even if we say that the horizon itself is a flat earth proof, can it not be argued that he's adding another flat earth proof beyond the horizon, that yes, the horizon is a flat earth proof, but even if someone does not understand the argument of the horizon, we can point out this another argument regarding the sun in the modus tollens form. I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate and trying to argue his points here.
Yeah, but he has to give the globe an horizon. That's the problem. So he's in a category error now, because technically, an horizon is where we establish horizontal from, the horizon, and that would be, QE's. If he wants to come in, he can, obviously, but there's no change. It's always zero slope. Do you know what I mean? So how can they don't have an horizon? They can't have. I don't know what the horizon represents.
I already gave it to you that yes, as a flat earther, I know that the horizon is a flat earth proof. I am giving one more flat earth proof in the form of the hotspot of the sun, or he first misrepresented it by saying the spotlight effect, but then he corrected and said, no, I meant the hotspot effect, and I'm using these two words interchangeably. But when you Google the spotlight effect, it gives a very ironical meaning to the flat earthers who talk about the Feast of Nonsense, which we talk about here. The spotlight effect is thinking that you are special because you are a flat earther and things like that. It was really ironical, but then he corrected and said that he meant the hotspot effect. Now, I haven't responded to his text message so far in a group, but I'm thinking about asking him to define the hotspot effect with citations.
Yeah, you might end up just not responding to him anymore. It could just be get to a point where he's just not listening or learning, or maybe he will. I don't know. You have to ask yourself: am I wasting my time talking to this person?
No. Okay, so let me give you the context. This person I'm talking about, I interviewed him, just like Nathan interviewed in his initial days a number of flat earthers and, I don't know, conspirators maybe. But I also interviewed this guy. He was my first interview, so I have an emotional attachment also. But now has come the time, almost 3 years later, that I'm calling him out. The title of my video of his interview was, he believes that everything is a lie. Everything we have been told is a lie. the prime candidate of those people throwing the bathwater away with the baby. You get the reference, right?
That's an all or nothing
Yes.
fallacy at its base, and everything. It's too ambiguous. It's retard. So everything is a lie. All right.
Is that statement true?
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
Keeping that aside, he is a hard. I respect him. So I was saying that he is the most seasoned flat earther in India with the best arguments, who is an admin of a WhatsApp group and also has a YouTube channel. I interviewed him. He may not have the most number of followers because there are, like you said, many conspiratards who are taking up flat earth because it is in vogue, right, these days. Still, I'm talking about the seasoned ones here in India. This is one of them. And apparently, he must not listen to Nathan Oakley or even my live streams for the past year, because this is exactly what I talk about. I have called out his name and everything. Still, he thinks that making claims about the distance to the sun is justifiable because of the spotlight effect or the hotspot effect.
Sorry, flat earther. I'm eating, so I can't.
And I'm thinking, did I ramble on for quite some long time? Everyone is
No. No, you're dealing with it. You're on the front line, and this is interesting. You know, I have had the same exact journey with various different guests I had, one of which was allegedly Dave, because he, on the interview, talked quite a lot about Mandela effect. Now, at the time, maybe he wasn't aware that I was vehemently opposed to that particular thing, but he came up with a new one. And it just coincidentally was right at my wheelhouse because it was something that I could debunk on the spot through experience. So he talked about C-3PO's gold leg, silver leg, as the case may be. And he pointed out that he'd watched it 1,000 times on video and he'd never noticed it, and he could show me the video. I was like, yeah. And round about that time, we had a guy that would sell laser discs, Rob the laser disc hunter, and he'd go around buying and selling laser discs. And one of the things that was like the holy grail at the time was the Criterion Edition laser disc of Star Wars. Why? Well, because it was the original edit, like everyone always babbles on about. And what you achieved with this really nice CAV multi-disc copy of Star Wars was higher fidelity. That is to say, it was clearer. So when you took someone down into our basement in Leamington Hi-Fi, which doesn't exist anymore, and you took them into the basement, there was a projector with a laser disc, an upscaler, a really nice projector, and a darkened room. And you'd go, okay, someone would ask, why would I spend 100 grand on a Hi-Fi? You could come and have a look at this. Take them downstairs, put on Star Wars, and they go, is his leg a different colour? You go, yeah, it is, yeah. They go, I never noticed that. You go, you just asked me why you'd spend 100 grand. Have you got your answer now? And they go, yeah, I have, yeah, that's amazing. You go, yeah, it is, yeah. And then you'd hopefully flog them something. Yeah? Well, understanding that extracting out the fidelity that maybe was produced on the original silver screen when people saw it in the 70s and 80s, but people just don't know. You don't know what you don't know unless you've seen it originally, and even if you did see it on the cinema, because you've never seen the film before, if you're seeing it at the cinema, there's a good chance you're not paying attention to the detail of the colour of his leg. You only pay attention when you've watched it 5,000 times on a video that you've got. My point being that was claimed to be a Mandela effect, that they changed his leg. Like, no, it's just a misremembering or a misrepresentation based on video. Same with the braces. There's various different pause points that I found on James Bond where he's talking to the girl who's supposed to have braces. You pause it and it looks like she's got braces, as it's an in-between frame. That's how it came across on a pause. You're like, okay, there's a few screenshots that I found out there where they paused it, took the screenshot from it, and it looks like she's got braces. But she didn't. You misremembered it because the plot character that did have braces or metal teeth is a major plot point.
Oh no, you are going to be covered by Brian Stavely and how flat earthers deny the Mandela effect. But I just wanted to say that don't be so harsh on the conspiratards, Nathan, because I used to be one. Maybe Arvin is one. Even so, I wanted to clarify. I may have said that I used to be all of those things, but it's actually like I also gobbled up many of the stuffs from the Feast of Nonsense, and I did not really believe or knew those things to be true, but they were interesting to look at even after you became a flat earther. So I may have spent a couple of years after becoming a flat earther into looking those stuff. Now, am I wrong now if people who are becoming flat earthers today are also looking into the same stuff? Because I also did the same. Now I'm pointing out that this is nonsense. Why are you doing this? Am I right in doing that? Because I was also there at some point. I know that I can teach them what mistakes not to commit, but then you can also leave everyone to have their own path in that sense.
Depends how you want to look at it, right? There's an old myth that lemmings will walk their way off cliffs, right? But notwithstanding that, that's not true. It's just a Disney movie. You're talking about the lemmings at the bottom of the cliff that have already survived, that you're trying to offer guidance to. They're only around you in the same way that, without being disrespectful to you, you're saying that you found your way to this subject through the means and roads that were offered to you through conspiracy. Therefore, well, look, I found the light after coming in as a conspiratard, and therefore, isn't it reasonable that I should, or you're asking, is it reasonable that I then critique people knowing better? Well, maybe not. I'm saying we should turn our backs on them because those people are on a path that they're already walking, and they've found their way on that path because the path has been paved with the Feasts of Nonsense. So we need to find a different inroad to us. My entire journey has been in opposition to conspiratard nonsense from day one. From literally day one, I've got here and gone, I'm surrounded by people who believe in stupid stuff. Let's point out to them how stupid their stuff is. And you're like, that's intentional. Rather than getting here and going, let's really get down to the brass tacks of how Earth's measured flat. You know, don't think that. You either think, wow, isn't it cool that there could be clone centers? Or you go, you're talking about flat Earth and talking about clone centers. That's objectionable. Again, all very useful to the person that wants you to knuckle down and fight amongst yourselves. If the realm is conspiratorial by its inroads. Now, I don't know how to address that. I don't know how to repay the inroads towards me when the paths that are coming in are not only coming in with hordes and hordes of conspiratards, they're getting to the gate and being poisoned against me anyway by people like Jaren. So it's like, well, what do you do in those circumstances? How do you change the inroads? How do you change the path of the people that are coming to you? Well, detaching yourself in all ways and forms possible from conspiratorial subjects. That's the only thing I can think of to do.
Well, Nathan, you have to see it this way. You have to wash your hands of them because if you look at our opposing side, right, we know who they are, our opposition. Now, obviously, we have opposition. And when I say opposition, I'm including not just the borders, but at this stage, our opposition are all conspiracy nuts who want to add us into their crazy world. It's like the opposition; they're crazy conspiracy nuts as well, on both sides of because they both have beliefs. So we need to wash our hands of all of them. If you've got some crazy conspiracy stuff going on and you want to add us into no, we're not part of that. Jog on. We're nothing to do with us. Need to wash our hands of them.
Yeah, I agree. And, maybe critiquing them isn't necessarily the best way forward in that regard. The ballers have managed to successfully wash their hands of us. The anti-flat earthers have gone, let's rationalise a way of not participating with flat earth debate. and they've succeeded. You think, well, maybe we should take a leaf out of their book, because they've just simply detached themselves entirely from that which they do not like. Well, I do not like conspiracy, because I'm trying to run an educational channel.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't like all that. I mean, conspiracy is fun and all the rest of it. But if we're going to be looking to be taken serious, we can't be talking about Bigfoot.
No.
You know what I mean? Clone centers, all this other nonsense.
Yep.
You know, why would we do that? Who's going to take us serious? Like, the mainstream will never have to take us serious as long as we're pumping out conspiracy nonsense. Regardless of what arguments we have, if we're putting out the Black Swan and then Bigfoot, then the Black Swan is nullified. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. By the standards of the general person, your average Joe normie, not your average flat earther, but average Joe comes along and looks at your credibility and goes, you what? You know, Beeloo was the most diluted, perfect example of that. Yeah? Offer up something that looks fairly legit and then show him talking to an alien in a bush. Perfect.
Exactly. Yes. And what they were doing is no different from that Beeloo stuff. You know, because they actually made a couple of good points on that show. Reasonably good. And they may not be brilliant arguments, but good enough points. They pointed out a few things. But then they put in Beeloo. And the whole thing was a joke. You know what I mean? And wasn't it interesting that they had some connection to Brazil? And Brazil has the largest amount of flat earthers. Now, well, I'm sure flat earth believers. Do you know what I mean? Out of all the countries in the world, there's the biggest percentage of people who are at least flat earth believers are in Brazil. You know, so it's a perfect character assassination. Like, they have to character assassinate us. We're either crazy conspiracy nuts or we're liars. Has to be one or the other. Because every time Rowbottom's name was brought up in this arena, every time it was brought up on comments or at where I was, and I'm talking to someone, first thing they'd ever say is he was dishonest or he was a liar. Now, none of them, I don't know if he was, right? But I know this, I was never shown any evidence that Rowbottom was a liar. I was shown no evidence whatsoever that Rowbottom was a liar. But every time his name was brought up for years, the first thing that comes out of the baller's mouth is that he was a liar. You know? So what happens when David Weiss's name is brought up? Someone who is nowhere near the credibility of Rowbottom, let's just say. You know, in the general public, what's he going to be? He's going to be a conspiracy nut, isn't he? So you're either one or the other.
That's what he is. That's Dave's shtick prior to Flat Earth. All he covered, 9/11, conspiracies, things of that nature. That's what he is.
Yes, exactly. That's what he was, and he still is.
Yeah, so he needs Flat Earth to not be Earth's measured flat. He needs it to be a conspiracy. Because it's far sexier as a conspiracy. Easier to sell as a conspiracy than it is to just prove.
Now you hit the nail on the head. Not only with them, but the others, correct?
I think so.
Yep. I think you nailed it.
That was good.
Well, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!